Chapter 26. A smile appeared on Zoro's lips when he heard this. Just what I wanted. Then the two knives kept spinning in his hands. 3,000 worlds. The figures of the two people passed each other and kept standing still. A second later, Zoro suddenly fell to his knees, and the two knives broke directly. He lowered his head and murmured to himself, "Is this the best swordsman in the world?" Zoro stood up, turned his head, and opened his hands. "What do you mean?" Hawkeye was startled. "The scars on the back are a swordsman's disgrace." "Interesting, boy." A smile appeared on the corner of Hawkeye's mouth, and then he struck Zoro with the black knife in his hand. A huge wound tore open from Zoro's chest. The force of the counter-shock knocked Zoro directly into the sea. "Zoro!" Luffy shouted, and then wanted to run to fight with Hawkeye. But he was pulled down by Xia Chen. "Calm down, Zoro is not dead yet." "Hey!" When Luffy heard this, his expression suddenly became surprised. He thought Zoro was dead just now. Xia Chen looked at Eagle Eye calmly, the fighting spirit in his eyes slowly rising. "Zoro's battle is over, and it's his turn next. He has been waiting for this battle for a long time. He has always wanted to test his own strength but has always suffered from the lack of an opponent. The Hawkeye in front of me is completely powerful enough to try it out." At this time, Hawkeye, who slowly inserted the black knife back behind him, seemed to sense something, and turned his head to meet Xia Chen's gaze. Xia Chen smiled slightly, and in the next second, he appeared opposite Hawkeye in a flash. This scene scared the pirates around. How did this person get here? The eagle's eyes were fixed on Xia Chen opposite him. His sharp gaze was enough to make anyone who looked at him fearful, but Xia Chen was not among them. "My hawk, I want to fight you." Xia Chen spoke concisely and directly. Eagle Eye frowned, and then said calmly, "I'm not interested. I had a lot of fun just now, but now I don't want to play anymore." "And? You're not a swordsman, are you?" "If I'm not a swordsman, I can't fight with you." Xia Chen asked back. "That's not true, it's just that I'm really not interested." After saying that, Hawkeye turned around and left without any intention of fighting Xia Chen. Xia Chen became anxious when he saw this scene. How could he prove his strength if Hawkeye left now? It will not be easy to find such a strong opponent next time. Suddenly, a good idea appeared in Xia Chen's mind. "My hawk, wait. Shanks is my uncle, how about you fight me for his sake?" "Hey!" After hearing this, Eagle Eye turned his head and stared at Xia Chen and asked uncertainly, "You said Shanks is your uncle? Is there any evidence? Are you familiar with the straw hat on the head of the boy wearing the straw hat over there? That's what Shanks gave him. I used to live in Windmill Village, Shanks stayed there for a while, and that's when I met him. And he also told me about his relationship with you. Otherwise, how would I know about your relationship with him?" Xia Chen opened his mouth and came with a firm look on his face, as if what he said was true. However, what Xia Chen said was indeed quite credible, at least Eagle Eye believed it at this time. As for when he seeks confirmation from Hungfa and finds out that there is no such thing, it will be a matter of the future. That has nothing to do with Xia Chen. As expected, after listening to Xia Chen's words, Hawkeye stood there and thought about it, then nodded and said, "Since you are Shanks' nephew, I agree to your request and I can fight with you." After saying that, he pulled out the black knife he had behind him instead of using the pocket knife to deal with it. Because he felt a dangerous aura from Xia Chen's body, which deserved to be taken seriously. Seeing Hawkeye in a fighting posture, Xia Chen showed a smile. Then the iron rod found on Crow's boat appeared in his hand. As for everyone else around him, they were stunned at this moment, including Luffy and others and Zoro who had just been rescued. Especially Luffy, a big question mark appeared above his head at this time. "You didn't let me take action just now, were you planning to do it yourself? Damn Xia Chen, you are such a bch." At this time, everyone else was completely unfavorable to Xia Chen for this battle. They all watched the battle between Hawkeye and Zoro just now. The bounty hunter Zoro was beaten in the hands of Hawkeye and was unable to fight back. His companion should be in a similar situation. Not to mention Zoro, who had just regained consciousness. He had truly felt the difference in the world just now. That's not a power he can match now. Although Xia Chen was very strong in his opinion, he had never shown his true strength in front of him. But he still didn't think Xia Chen could fight Hawkeye, and the situation in the battle might be a little better than him. At least that's what he still thinks now. Until Xia Chen held the iron rod with one hand and appeared above Eagle Eye the next second. The iron rod in his hand hit Eagle Eye hard. Hawkeye was also not to be outdone. Haidai made a backhand chop and collided with the iron rod. In an instant, an extremely powerful shock wave came out from the center of the fight between the two. The surrounding waves were directly lifted to a height of tens of meters, and even formed a small tsunami. Ah! Everyone around them screamed in terror. Is this really something a human can do? After the waves subsided, everyone discovered that they were already more than 1,000 meters away from Xia Chen. And because the shock waves are still being released, this distance even tends to get further away. At this time, the two people in the center of the battlefield looked at each other with different expressions. Hawkeye was very surprised at this time. This young man was so powerful that even he felt that the knife in his hand was unstable at that moment. And the eagle's eyes slowly caught sight of the black luster shining on the iron rod. Armed and domineering. It was really strange that he would see this thing in the East China Sea. You must know that even in the first half of the Great Channel, there were only a few people who mastered this skill. Only in places like New World will this become a commonly used skill. Therefore, he was still very curious about Xia Chen's ability to master this power now. Xia Chen felt the huge power coming from his hands at this moment, and there was a hint of excitement in his eyes. As expected of Hawkeye, he took his full blow so easily. You must know that with his current physique, the power of a full-strength stick is extremely powerful. The person who can compete with 4 emperors is not easy. In this case, he can play with all his strength. Xia Chen narrowed his eyes, and then continued to attack Eagle Eye. The 6 secret movements seemed to come to life in his hands, and with the cooperation of various techniques, he even faintly suppressed Hawkeye. Chapter 27. On the other hand, Hawkeye was a little confused at this time. After sailing at sea for many years, he could certainly tell that Xia Chen was now using the Marine 6th style. And it is still used to a very superb level. Only, isn't it inappropriate for a pirate like you to be so familiar with Marine stuff? Could it be that this person is Marine's spy? With this idea in mind, Hawkeye also raised his question. Oh, you're talking about this. Xia Chen started his unnecessary compilation again. Again, do you see that straw hat boy over there? His grandfather is Garp, so I learned all 6 styles from Garp. Marine hero, Garp's grandson. Hawkeye was stunned when he heard this. He didn't expect that this straw hat boy had such an identity. But when he turned around, he thought of a question. Why is my grandpa a marine but my grandson wants to be a pirate? Who knows? Xia Chen shrugged. Then he launched a series of attacks towards Hawkeye. Every time the two people collide, a huge shock wave will be generated, and the waves will continue to surge one after another. Suddenly, Xia Chen narrowed his eyes, came to the front of Eagle Eye with his shaver, and threw the stick in his hand high. Aim at Hawkeye with both hands in the shape of fists. 6 King's Spear. An extremely powerful impact burst out from Xia Chen's fist, speeding towards Eagle Eye. Hawkeye directly held the knife in front of him, blocking this powerful and heavy blow. However, his feet moved back more than 10 meters under the force. There was a hint of excitement in Xia Chen's eyes. Opponents of this strength are not common. Then Hawkeye raised the knife in front of him and struck down hard. A huge green sword light attacked Xia Chen. I lost it. Seeing this scene, Xia Chen was so frightened that his cerebellum shrank, and he quickly stepped aside. The sword light rushed straight into the sea. There was no movement at all. The next second, the sea level began to split from the middle, and a hollow area stretching for thousands of meters and hundreds of meters deep appeared on the sea surface. The water did not even flow back for more than 10 seconds, and it did not surge until dozens of seconds later. This produced several small whirlpools and another powerful wave, pushing Barati further. Sikui, Xia Chen is so awesome. Luffy said with stars in his eyes. At the same time, there were not a few people who had the same reaction as Luffy. Everyone looked at the fight between the two men with their mouths open. This. How could there be such a monster in the world? Even Zoro, who was more familiar with Xia Chen, had his eyes widened at this time. The power Hawkeye uses to fight now is much stronger than when he fought him. And Xia Chen was actually able to fight back and forth with the opponent in this situation. Did he hide it so deeply all along? Poor Zoro thought that Xia Chen was just a lot stronger than him, but now it seems. The world is really so far away. Nami was also watching this scene blankly at this time, feeling unable to calm down for a long time. She also didn't expect that Xia Chen, who stayed with her every day, would have such strength. This kind of power, even. Suddenly, Nami seemed to have thought of something, and her face suddenly darkened. After a long time, she gritted her teeth and made a decision. She has to solve her own problems by herself. Then she sneaked around to the melee while no one was paying attention to her. At the same time, Krieg and others were also filled with horror. After feeling the power like a god, there was a trace of fear in his heart. He just seemed to want to go over and kill Hawkeye. Hiss, what kind of lifeless idea is he having? In an instant, he just wanted to escape from this place quickly, otherwise he would be dead later. Thinking like this, he looked at Barity not far away. He needs this ship. So Krieg waved his hand and said to the many pirate boys behind him, "Boys, while the two monsters over there are still fighting, let's take over this ship quickly. Come on." Xia Chen looked at the surging sea water below in the air and was frightened for a while. Fortunately, he dodged quickly, otherwise he would have suffered a lot if he had received this blow. Just when he was still shocked by the power of Hawkeye's attack, Hawkeye's voice came from below. "Boy, don't be in a daze." Xia Chen turned his head and saw another huge sword light speeding towards him. But the distance at this time gave him no time to dodge. In this case, Xia Chen narrowed his eyes. "Hold the stick in your hand tightly with both hands." He roared angrily, "Thunder, 8 trigrams." The stick in his hand was suddenly swung out by Xia Chen and collided with the sword light. Drink. After a few seconds of stalemate, with Xia Chen's loud roar, the sword light was directly shot into the sky by Xia Chen. As for why Xia Chen uses the name of Teacher Kai's move, all I can say is, no way. He is a bad namer, and there is no way his name could be as powerful as Teacher Kai's moves. Moreover, the mace and the iron rod are both sticks, and he can use Teacher Kai's moves with the iron rod. So, Teacher Kai must never say that he pirated his moves in the future. Without hesitation, Xia Chen rushed towards Eagle Eye again, and the two fought again. After some time after another confrontation, the two of them looked at each other, and Hawkeye's state also fluctuated slightly, panting slightly. On the other hand, Xia Chen on the opposite side looked a bit miserable at this time, with countless knife marks on his body and tattered clothes. Blood continued to seep out of his body, turning him into a bloody man. "My physical strength has also bottomed out, and I am gasping for air." Eagle Eye looked at Xia Chen and said, "You are already bruised, and you don't have much energy left. Do you want to continue fighting? Broken all over?" Xia Chen chuckled. "Are you sure?" As soon as he finished speaking, Xia Chen's wounds began to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. After a while, the small wounds on Xia Chen's body had disappeared, and the larger wounds only had some white marks left. Animal-type fruits have relatively strong recovery capabilities, let alone mythical animal-type fruits like his. To put it bluntly, as long as the damage was not particularly serious, he might be able to recover with just a few hits. And when his fruit ability is further strengthened in the future, his recovery ability will also become stronger. It is even impossible to regenerate a severed limb. He is the Monkey King. But now there is a real problem. He does not have much physical strength anymore. This thing will not recover with the passage of time, it will only become less and less. Eagle Eye also looked surprised when he saw this scene. "Is this your devil fruit ability?" "That's right." Xia Chen nodded. Then he continued, "I have one last trick, and I want you to give me some advice." Chapter 28. As soon as he finished speaking, Xia Chen used moonwalk to fly into the sky. The stick in his hand was raised high, and the armed domineering energy wrapped around it, and at the same time, all the strength of his body was poured into it. Meteor. As Xia Chen spoke, he quickly rushed towards Eagle Eye. He kept using moonwalk to accelerate in the air, and by the time he got close to Hawkeye, his speed had reached an unimaginable level. Uncle Kizaru once said, "Speed is quality." When he reached Hawkeye, he hit him hard with the stick in his hand. Boom! A shockwave several times more powerful than before spread out again, and everyone could clearly feel the shockwave even if they were several kilometers away. As expected, another wave hit them. And the waves this time were hundreds of meters high. Luffy, Krieg, and others who were fighting looked at this situation with their eyes widened. Then he stopped fighting instantly and ran up to Barity desperately. Now the only ship in the sea can give them a sense of security. As the voices gradually calmed down, the battle between Xia Chen and Eagle Eye had already decided the winner. Xia Chen slumped down on a floating wooden board, sweat dripping from his forehead. Looking at the opposite side, Hawkeye was still panting slightly and said, "I lost." Xia Chen actually knew about his failure before the battle started. Although he is strong, it is impossible to say that he can defeat a man of Hawkeye's level. So he didn't feel any loss about it, and he could also feel that Hawkeye was letting off steam. Otherwise, the world's best swordsman has more than just this strength. After this battle, he roughly understood his current level. It's probably similar to Luffy's strength when he used Gear 4 Ls Timon 2 years later. He is already very satisfied with this result. After all, how long has it been since he came to the world of One Piece? It has reached a height that most people cannot reach in their lifetime. If this is not enough, it would be a bit greedy. And his strength will not stay at this stage for long. When he checks in a few more islands, then GGG. The 3-day separation was really the best way to describe it for him. Hawkeye slowly put away his sword and stood up. Looking at Xia Chen, who was slumped on the ground, there was no wave in his eyes, but his heart was very uneasy. This young man is quite capable. The last blow just now made him feel threatened, so he used most of his strength to block it. Originally, he thought that this battle with Xia Chen was just a boring game for giving advice to children. Unexpectedly, he felt a little excited after a long absence. Today's young people are really fiercer than the last. "Boy, what is your dream?" Eagle Eye suddenly asked Xia Chen. "My dream?" Xia Chen hesitated for a while, then showed a smile and said, "I want to live freely in this free sea and do whatever I want without any restrictions." "I see, this is not a simple matter," Eagle Eye said calmly. Even with his current strength, he will still be subject to some restrictions, such as world government. And what he saw in Xia Chen's eyes was the kind of free will that was completely unrestrained. And this must mean confronting the world government. In this case, he... Suddenly, Hawkeye reacted and a slight smile appeared on his lips. Why does he care so much? Young man, just let him follow his own ideas. What he can't do, maybe Xia Chen can do it. Hawkeye slowly turned around, stepped on a wooden board, and finally turned to look at Xia Chen. "Young people, don't give up on your dreams, keep at it." "I will." Xia Chen revealed a big white fang and said. After receiving the answer, Hawkeye drew out his black knife again, and then slashed forward. Then the plank under his feet began to rush towards his small boat, which was washed away unknown distance. Looking at the black spots gradually disappearing in the distance, Xia Chen also smiled. What a joyful battle! 10 minutes later, Xia Chen slowly stood up after regaining his strength. He looked around. When he noticed that Barity had almost turned into a small black dot in the distance, he suddenly slapped his head and then quickly flew into the sky. Keep using moonwalk to get there. Damn it, he forgot about it. Fortunately, we can still see the shadow of the boat, otherwise we would be doomed if we couldn't find the boat. He can't tell the direction. Some time later, when Xia Chen came to Barity, he discovered that the place had also been damaged to some extent. The 2 raised finboards were now broken into pieces. Look at Luffy sleeping soundly on the ground and Krieg lying on the ground over there. Xia Chen immediately understood what was happening here. At the same time, under Xia Chen's knowledge and perception, except for the other people on the spaceship, they were no longer there. I understand in my heart, it seems that Nami has made the same decision. She just had to tell them and let them go back with her. Can't someone like Eren be easily crushed to death? It's such a fool to have to bear it all alone. But the matter has come to this, and there is no point in thinking about it anymore. Let's deal with the current matters first. Xia Chen slowly fell to the ground, and the pirates and others around him immediately took a few steps away from him. This can't help but put a dark line on his face. Does he look so scary? But the people around me didn't think so. Due to their limited knowledge, they just saw such a powerful battle all at once. It directly shattered their worldview. In their opinion, Xia Chen is now the strongest person in the world, with the power to destroy the world. It's strange that they are not afraid. In this case, the next thing is much simpler. Under Xia Chen's powerful force, these pirates ran as fast as they could, grabbing nearby wooden boards and drifting away. But it can be considered that they have some conscience and have not forgotten Krieg. By the way, he also took him with him. This battle also came to an end. Xia Chen turned to look at the chefs and asked, is it still open now? I'm a little hungry. Open. Half a day later. So, I guess Sister Nami's destination is Renren Paradise. Joseph said with certainty. Okay, now that we know Nami's destination, let's go get him back. Luffy shouted from the side. Then, let's set off without further delay. Xia Chen also said calmly from the side. Maybe something will happen if we wait too late. Yoshi, let's go. As soon as Xia Chen and others walked out of the cabin, they saw Sanji already waiting outside. He held a cigarette in his mouth and said pretentiously, just let me accompany you to have a try. Chapter 29. After hearing this, Luffy's expression was dull at first, and then suddenly ecstatic. Really, really? Do you really want to be our partner? Ah, it's true. Ahahaha, that's really great. Then Sanji, Luffy and the others came to the boat, and there was a sound from behind just before they were about to board the boat. Don't catch a cold. Instantly, Sanji's eyes filled with tears, and the tears kept flowing down. He turned to face Jeepy who was on the second floor and knelt down directly. I will never forget your great kindness in my life. Jeepy also had tears in his eyes after hearing this. Go. Go chase your dreams. After some time on the sea heading to Xia Village, a small boat was sailing. The 4 people on the boat were enjoying the meal leisurely. Xia Chen took a mouthful of meat and drank another sip of red wine. He couldn't help but sigh, this is life. What a hard life it was before there was no chef. Although due to the existence of system space, he can directly bring a lot of meat. But those who get tired of it after eating it for a long time, how could there be a customized service like Sanji's now? Hey, compared to cooking for you, I would rather cook for Miss Nami. I'm so happy to think that I can see Miss Nami later. Sanji couldn't stop thinking next to him. At this moment, they suddenly felt the ship begin to vibrate. Hey? What's going on? Luffy asked doubtfully. The next second, a huge creature broke out of the sea and stared at the people on the boat. This, why does this kind of behemoth appear in the East China Sea? Isn't this something that only exists in the Great Waterway? Joseph said in horror, holding his head. Oh, it's really big, this manatee. Xia Chen raised his eyebrows and said. Idiot, how can a cow be in the sea? This is a hippopotamus. Sanji retorted from the side. Does your hippopotamus have horns? Well, if you say so. Stop talking, brother, it's going to attack us. Joseph yelled looking at the manatee in front of him. Okay. I was worried that the boat was too slow, but now I have a solution. Xia Chen waved his hand, and then charged towards the manatee with Conqueror's domineering force. In an instant, the manatee froze on the spot, looking at Xia Chen who was sitting leisurely on the stool with a very horrified expression. I didn't dare to take any action at all. Then the next thing will be easier. Brave Niu, not afraid of difficulties, go for it. Xia Chen and Luffy stood on the bow of the boat and shouted, in front of them was the manatee tied up with a rope. Oh ho, so fast. Just rush to Renren's Paradise. Not long after, they saw an island in the distance. Unsurprisingly, it was the island where Xia Village was located, and where Renren's Paradise was located. But things will never be so smooth sailing. Hey, silly bird, manatee, stop. Seeing the manatee about to hit the wall, Sanji shouted with an ugly face. But Xia Chen and Luffy next to them seemed to have no idea, and still shouted, come on, rush. But no matter how much Sanji shouted, the manatee still hit him. Then, why does it feel like we are flying in the sky? Luffy tilted his head in confusion. Please remove the image. Ding, I checked into Xia Village successfully, my fruit ability was upgraded to intermediate level, and I got the piercing eyes. For a moment, Xia Chen felt a stinging pain in his eyes, which made him cover his eyes unconsciously and sit on the stool. Xia Chen, what's wrong with you? Luffy couldn't help but asked when he saw Xia Chen's strange behavior. It's okay, my eyes just hurt a little. After a while, when the boat slowly stopped on land, the stinging sensation in Xia Chen's eyes gradually dissipated. What are you bastards doing? Zoro's angry voice came. Oh, Zoro, what are you doing here? Several people nearby were chattering, but Xia Chen was feeling the changes in his eyes. When Xia Chen slowly opened his eyes, if anyone saw him at this time, they would find that the pupils of his eyes had turned golden. Shining with brilliance, the whole person looks more handsome. Of course, the biggest change is definitely not the change in appearance. Xia Chen cast his eyes on Luffy and others aside. He found that his eyes gradually penetrated their clothes, and then he saw Xiao Kunkan? Oh, no, it's their qi and blood flowing. In Xia Chen's eyes, they look like human beings composed of qi and blood. By observing the flow of qi and blood, Xia Chen can keenly discover where they are injured and which part of their body is more powerful to attack. To put it simply, it is equivalent to a vulnerability detector. And not only that, his eyes can even emit powerful energy rays like Superman in Marvel. Extremely powerful. Xia Chen really loves this ability. He's so handsome, isn't he? Just when Xia Chen thought this check-in was over, a voice came again in his mind. Ding! Check into Xia Village successfully and get, ding! 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 There is a bug in the system and it is being repaired, it cannot be repaired. The demonized form of the Monkey King's fruit has been released. Note, please note that the demonized form is extremely unstable, host needs to. Xia Chen was immediately confused by this series of prompts, but when he heard that the bug could not be repaired and he received another reward, he was instantly excited. Is this pie in the sky? Would it be better to give him a few more bugs like this? And this demonization sounds awesome. Just when he wanted to learn more about the newly acquired demonization, the system prompted that the demonization was unstable. But before he could continue to understand, he felt a sudden killing intention filling his mind. In an instant, Xia Chen fell down on the spot, rolling around on the deck holding his head. At this time, several people who heard the noise also turned their attention to Xia Chen. When they saw Xia Chen rolling around on the ground, they all showed horrified looks. Luffy hurried over, helped Xia Chen up and asked, Xia Chen, what's wrong with you? The remaining people also rushed over and looked at Xia Chen, who looked ferocious. What is going on? Sanji asked stammering. Zoro didn't say anything, but his expression had the same idea as Sanji. They were people who had seen the battle between Xia Chen and Hawkeye, and knew that Xia Chen was extremely powerful, much stronger than them. But now Xia Chen, such a strong man, is running around with his head in his hands and rolling around with a ferocious face. What the hell happened? Chapter 30. Suddenly, Xia Chen opened his eyes. The original pair of golden pupils had disappeared, replaced by a pair of blood pupils. In an instant, a strong murderous intention enveloped the surroundings, making everyone feel trembling. Luffy looked a little anxious and couldn't help shouting. Xia Chen! Xia Chen's eyes instantly looked towards him. At this moment, Luffy felt as if he was facing Shinigami directly, and the strong pressure instantly made his back wet. Xia Chen said to everyone in a trembling voice, You go find Nami and the others quickly, and let me relax for a while by myself. Xia Chen's mind was filled with violent murderous intent at this time, which gradually swallowed up his reason. Just now, he even had the idea of killing everyone here. Fortunately, he relied on his strong willpower to temporarily contain the murderous intention. Otherwise, everyone here will suffer. But he wasn't sure how long he could suppress this murderous intention, which was why he was so eager to let them go first. But Luffy wanted to say something else but was interrupted by Xia Chen. Go quickly. After a moment of silence, Luffy stood up slowly and said, I know. Then he said, Zoro, Sanji, Joseph, let's go. After saying that, Luffy jumped off the boat and walked in a certain direction. Zoro and others followed Luffy after taking a look at Xia Chen. There must be a reason why Xia Chen would let them go. Just as Luffy believed in Xia Chen, he also believed that Xia Chen would handle it well. He is such a strong man. After everyone left, Xia Chen felt that his consciousness was getting less and less clear. If he continues like this, he will definitely lose control and kill everyone later. Thinking of this, Xia Chen galloped directly towards the seaside, and at the same time he didn't forget to say something about the system. Damn system, what kind of rubbish bug is this? After waiting at the beach, Xia Chen plunged directly into the sea. The moment he entered the sea, his murderous intent was completely out of control. Both eyes were completely occupied by the violent killing intent, and at the same time, the body also underwent huge changes, and the clothes on his body turned directly into flowing black at this moment. Just like when Luffy transforms into Nika, his clothes turn white. At the same time, a black flame also appeared behind Xia Chen and surrounded him, and it was not extinguished even in the sea. The hair color also changed from black to blood color. The whole person looked like a demon who had stepped out of hell. At this time, there were many sea beasts around who didn't know whether to live or die and swam over after hearing the noise. Xia Chen looked at them with bloodthirsty eyes, full of violent killing intent. What follows is a violent massacre. At the same time, everyone on Luffy's side fell silent. They had just had a fight with Nami and met Johnny, who also told them about Nami killing Usopp. So now the scene has fallen into a dull atmosphere. Until... Why are you here? Hearing the familiar voice, everyone looked over with surprised expressions. Usopp. After some time, so, you mean Nami stabbed herself to save you? Zoro asked. Yes. Usopp nodded. Then the atmosphere was silent for a few seconds, before Luffy stood up and said, since things are like this, then, let us take back our navigator. Understood. Captain. Zoro curled his lips and smiled. Then the group of people walked in the direction of Eren Paradise. At this time, Nami was sitting on the ground, her eyes filled with helplessness and despair. No matter what, she could not stop the determination of the villagers to attack Eren. They didn't want her to have to go through this anymore. Obviously she was willing to say it herself. Thinking that all the villagers in the village would eventually die in Eren's hands, Nami collapsed completely. He picked up the knife in his hand and kept stabbing at the Arlong pirate's tattoo on his arm. There was also a desperate roar coming from his mouth. Ah! Ah! Suddenly, Nami found that her arm was grabbed by something and couldn't move, so she looked back. I saw a completely different Xia Chen grabbing her arm and looking at her, with no emotion in his blood-colored eyes. Looking at Xia Chen, who was completely different except for his appearance and body shape, Nami was stunned and couldn't help but ask blankly, Xia Chen, what happened? How did you become like this? It's nothing, something went wrong with some stupid thing, and it's causing a bit of trouble now. Obviously the way he spoke was Xia Chen that Nami was familiar with, but she felt that Xia Chen was very unfamiliar at this time. Just because Xia Chen's tone was extremely cold, he no longer had the same feeling as before. Suddenly, Xia Chen knelt down and held her in his arms. Don't worry, I'm here. Nami, Eren's existence has always made you suffer, causing you to lose your happiness at your best age. But this kind of day will never exist in the future. I will solve everything. After saying that, Xia Chen slowly stood up and turned his head. Be the navigator of our pirate group, you can't escape. After saying that, Xia Chen rose into the sky from where he was and flew quickly towards Eren Paradise. Nami looked at Xia Chen who was getting farther and farther away, and the tears in her eyes were like bursting from a dam and she couldn't help but shed them anymore. He murmured, Thank you, Xia Chen. At the same time, an inexplicable feeling was also growing in her heart. Hey, Nami! You're here! Suddenly, Nami heard a voice coming from behind and couldn't help but turn her head to look. The moment he saw Luffy and the others, a smile appeared on his lips. She has now faced her own heart and will never lose this hard-won friendship again. And she knows Xia Chen well. If he says he can solve it, he will definitely solve it. So. Nami waved to everyone and said, Everyone, I'm here. Seeing the smile on Nami's face, everyone was stunned. Wasn't he looking sad just now? Why has it become like this now? Without thinking too much, Luffy ran over and said to Nami, Nami, let's go and defeat Eren together. Let's free Kakosia village. No need. Nami shook her head and said. Hey? Why? Xia Chen has passed. When he first heard Nami's words, Luffy wanted to ask why, but when he heard the next sentence, he suppressed the words in his mouth. Xia Chen has gone? That's great. He will definitely be able to solve it if he goes. Luffy said happily, in his opinion, as long as he takes action against someone as strong as Xia Chen, the fishmen here will definitely be no match for him. But... You said Xia Chen has passed? Zoro asked with an ugly look on his face. Yeah, what's wrong? Nami is a little confused. Is there anything wrong with Xia Chen coming over? Zoro's expression changed several times, and finally he said slowly, I think Xia Chen's current state is not quite right. Just now when he was on the boat, he suddenly ran around with his head in his hands. At the same time, the moment he opened his eyes, I felt an unprecedented strong murderous intention. So something must have happened to him. Did you notice anything different about him just now? If you say so. Chapter 31. When he spoke just now, he seemed to have a kind of indifference that could repel people thousands of miles away, and his eyes were also extremely indifferent. At the same time, the whole person has become completely different from before, with blood-colored hair and blood-colored pupils, black flowing clothes, and black flames surrounding his back. Nami told everyone about the appearance of Xia Chen that she had just seen. After hearing Nami's words, Zoro strengthened his judgment. Something must have happened to Xia Chen. So he said directly to everyone, "Let's rush over and have a look." Good. Looking at Renren's paradise getting closer and closer, the killing intent in Xia Chen's eyes became more and more obvious. Although he just said that killing so many sea beasts in the sea had slightly reduced his murderous nature and temporarily restored his clarity, it was not enough. He needs to kill more creatures. Otherwise, he is not sure whether he will be controlled by killing intent later. And on this island, the best choice is the Fishmen clan led by Renren. So, he can only go on a killing spree. Anyway, there is no good person in this group of fishmen. As for the little octopus who will have a relationship with Rayleigh in the future, he is also there? That was not within his scope of consideration. He had already said when talking to Hawkeye before that he wanted to be a free pirate. Nothing can restrain him, so he can rely on his own heart. After a while, Xia Chen came to the door of Renren Paradise. Also here, he also saw the villagers of Xia Village. Without hesitation, he sent them to have a tryst with Duke Zhou with a burst of conqueror's domineering attitude. Otherwise, he is afraid that he will be unable to restrain himself if he takes action later. Xia Chen slowly landed in Renren's paradise. All the fishmen looked at this person who fell from the sky with curiosity. One of the younger brothers slowly walked over and asked Xia Chen, "Hey, human, what are you here for?" Xia Chen didn't answer and didn't look at him. This immediately made him feel insulted. He raised his palm and patted Xia Chen. "Didn't you hear Lao Zi talking to you?" Pfft. The sound of flesh and blood tearing was heard. Before the fishman could make any move, Xia Chen's hand came out from behind him and directly penetrated his entire body. In an instant, the fishman lost consciousness and lay on the ground. This sudden scene made all the murlocs present stunned for a moment. After reacting, Renren roared at Xia Chen, "A hole, what have you done to my compatriots? Go and tear this human being to pieces. I'm going to throw him into the sea and feed him to the fish." All the fish people swarmed forward, but Xia Chen just smiled evilly, and then quickly shuttled among the crowd of fish people. Every time he passes through a place, it's like Shinigami passing through a border, and one fishman's life is being harvested by him one after another. Renren's eyes were splitting when he saw this scene, and anger directly filled his eyes. The next second, he rushed directly towards Xia Chen. He wants to cut this human being who dares to kill his compatriots into pieces. But before his attack could land on Xia Chen's arm suddenly stretched out and grabbed his neck like a ghost. Xia Chen obviously looked smaller in size, but now he was lifting Renren up like a dead dog. Renren struggled wildly and kept beating Xia Chen's arm, but Xia Chen's arm was like a steel bar. No matter how hard he tried, it had no effect. Gradually, Xia Chen narrowed his eyes and crushed Renren's neck. Immediately afterwards, Renren's struggling body began to become weak, his hands dropped, and then he was thrown out by Xia Chen. "Ah, brother Renren!" The remaining fishmen who were not dead were extremely angry when they saw this scene, and they continued to attack Xia Chen without fear of death. And Xia Chen, as a good person, of course has to send them to hell. Every second, countless fishmen would die in Xia Chen's hands. For a time, Renren's paradise turned into a bloody purgatory. Some time later, when Luffy and others arrived at the gate of Renren's paradise, they saw scores of fallen villagers. Nami's pupils dilated instantly and she hurried over. At the same time, tears kept flowing out. Everyone. The situation seems a little wrong. When Nami picked up Ken, she found that he didn't have any injuries on his body. He didn't seem to be dead now, but, sleeping? Nami checked again in disbelief. He is indeed sleeping, so that means. Nami then checked all the surrounding villagers and found that they were all asleep, which made her take a long breath. Fortunately everyone is okay. So now it's time to think about why everyone sleeps here together. According to her knowledge, there was only one person she knew who could do this. Nami turned his attention to Renren Paradise, and then hurriedly ran towards the door. When the gate of opening hit, Nami's pupils contracted violently. As if he had seen something unbelievable, he froze in place. Nami, what are you looking at here? Luffy slowly walked over from behind and asked Nami. However, when he saw the scene in Aaron's paradise, he also showed the same expression as Nami, and then shouted tremblingly. Xia Chen. This shout also attracted the attention of Zoro and others, who slowly walked up, and then showed the same expression. This was not really a fuss for them, but the scene they saw in front of them shocked their vision. At this time, there was a river of blood in Aaron's paradise, with fallen murlocs everywhere. The blood of murlocs even dyed the pool inside red. But in the middle of this purgatory-like scene stood a man, covered in black flames, with blood-colored hair and blood-colored eyes, like a king who had stepped out of hell. This person is Xia Chen. After killing all the fishmen, his murderous intention has finally been relieved. At this moment, he is trying his best to suppress this murderous intention. The black flames on his body fluctuated erratically. Xia Chen. Nami was just about to go over when Zoro grabbed her arm, then looked at Xia Chen with a solemn face and said, Xia Chen is in a very strange state right now. Let's not go over there now. We will check the situation later. It might be dangerous if we go there hastily. Zoro's understanding of Xia Chen is no less than Luffy's understanding of Xia Chen, and because Zoro is more willing to observe, in some respects he is the person who knows Xia Chen best. Judging from his previous impression of Xia Chen was definitely not a murderous person, but today he killed all these fishmen here, leaving no one alive. This looked very abnormal. Thinking of Xia Chen running around with his head in his hands, Zoro guessed that something must have happened to Xia Chen that they didn't know about. But currently they have nothing to do about this situation and can only wait for Xia Chen to solve it on his own. If they were strong, they could go and knock Xia Chen out as a group. If he hadn't seen the battle between Xia Chen and Eagle Eye, he might have had this idea. Now, giving away heads is a bad behavior. Chapter 32. After some time the black inflammation on Xia Chen's body slowly disappeared, his blood-colored hair began to turn back to black, and the color of his pupils turned back to the golden color of his fiery eyes. Feeling the killing intent gradually subsided in his body, a smile appeared on Xia Chen's lips. Jaluo, you are so damn hard to control. Fortunately, he has a strong will that was honed by watching a bunch of action stars in his previous life. Otherwise, it would be really hard to bear it. Now that he has completely regained his clarity, he has to. System, can you explain to Laozi why there is a bug? This, you also know that I am just a system, so if there is a problem with the operation of my system, it should be normal for some bugs to appear, right? Xia Chen was so angry when he heard what the system said, your grandma is so stupid. Then you can explain to me why the demonized form of the ape fruit has so many disadvantages. The fruit of host is in the form of Monkey King, who also encountered many injustices in the process of growing up, and naturally has a dark side in his heart, so by the way, you also inherited the dark side of the great sage, right? Before the system finished speaking, Xia Chen interrupted it and said. Host, you are so smart. I don't care. You made such a serious mistake this time. The demonized state you gave me has such great disadvantages. What if I can't control my murderous intent and provoke a big pirate? So, you have made such a big mistake and you have to make it up to me, right? Now, Xia Chen's legs were finally exposed. Yes, he just wants to reap benefits. Even though he has nothing to do now, the probability of encountering a big pirate as he mentioned is also very small. But a small probability does not mean that there is none. If there is, then rounding it off will make it 100%. It makes no sense not to compensate him. Then, what compensation does host want? There was a hint of caution in the system's voice. It was indeed a problem this time. As a moral system, it fails. For the sake of your sincere repentance, I don't ask too much, just get rid of the side effects of my demonic form, which is the murderous intention. Xia Chen's voice sounded slightly expectant. Having experienced the demonic state, he deeply understands how powerful that form is. It completely made him stronger in all aspects, and it felt like Luffy in Nika form. Now let him use this form to fight Hawkeye. I don't say he can win, but he will definitely be able to last longer and force out more of Hawkeye's strength. However, this form also has two disadvantages. One of them is that the physical energy consumed will be relatively large. This is quite normal. Haven't you seen that every time Luffy switches to 5th gear, it feels like he's about to be buried? In comparison, this form of his only requires a little more energy consumption, which is already very good. Another shortcoming is the problem of murderous intention. In this form, the murderous intention has simply reached a peak. He wants to kill anyone he sees, and the longer he uses this form, the more murderous he becomes. The reason why the murderous intention was slowly fading just now is because he did not actively want to enter this form just now, he was forced to activate this form. At the same time, he has been restraining this murderous intention in his heart, so the more he kills, the smaller his murderous intention becomes. To put it simply, it is to kill the intention to kill. But he can't say it's like this every time, right? What if there aren't so many creatures to kill for him? What should we do? In this case, wouldn't this form only be used in critical situations? I don't dare to use it at all. Uncontrollable things are too dangerous. Host requirement detected, being analyzed, analysis successful, host request rejected. The core of the demonized form is the killing intention. If the killing intention does not exist, then this form will lose its meaning. The system can make the killing intention controllable, but it cannot erase the killing intention. If the host must erase the murderous intention, then it must erase the form as well. Do you want to erase it? Ah! Xia Chen was stunned for a moment at first, then he immediately reacted and said quickly, "Don't erase, don't erase." Just kidding, how could such a powerful form be erased? And just now the system seemed to say that it could make this murderous intention controllable. It's a shortcoming that can be controlled and he's still worried about it. This is a huge advantage, right? Then Xia Chen immediately said to the system, "Then make the murderous intention controllable." As soon as he finished speaking, Xia Chen felt a strange energy pouring into his body, causing him to unconsciously close his eyes and carefully feel the changes in his body. Luffy here saw Xia Chen's appearance changed back to his original appearance, and was about to go over and ask what was going on. But he only walked halfway and found that Xia Chen had entered the previous form again, which frightened him and took a few steps back. At the same time, an extremely powerful killing intent emanated from Xia Chen. At this moment, everyone felt as if they had entered a world of mountains of corpses and seas of blood, with countless corpses at their feet. A few seconds later, when everyone came back to their senses, they found that their bodies were soaked with sweat. Those who were timid like Usopp fell to the ground with weak legs. Even if he was as strong-minded as Zoro, he felt a trace of fear burst out of his heart at that moment. In an instant, everyone looked at Xia Chen with incomparable solemnity. What they didn't know was that Xia Chen felt very comfortable at this time. Just now after the change was completed, he felt as if he had something extra inexplicably. Then he couldn't help but turn on the demonic state, but the difference this time was that he was full of killing intent. But there is no sign of losing control. Instead, he can use these murderous intentions like an arm, causing physical and mental suppression to his opponents. After getting familiar with the killing intent, Xia Chen slowly opened his eyes, but saw Luffy and others next to him looking at him as if they were facing a formidable enemy. He couldn't help but asked curiously, "What are you doing?" Luffy did not answer immediately, but gulped before stammering and asked, Are you Xia Chen?" "Nonsense, you can't recognize me just standing here." "But I remember Xia Chen doesn't have black hair and black eyes." "You are all red." "Xia Chen is not wearing black clothes either. Besides, Xia Chen is not surrounded by black flames like you." "Xia Chen, can't I dye my hair, put on contact lenses, change my clothes, and do some special effects?" But Xia Chen knew that he would not be able to explain it clearly to a fool like Luffy, so he lifted his demonic state. The black flames wrapped around his body slowly disappeared, and his clothes and hair returned to their original colors, but his pupils were still golden. Because Xia Chen's eyes have turned into blazing eyes, there is nothing we can do. His is a bit different from the original Great Sage. It's not that he only uses it when he wants to, but it has basically become a normal skill of his. There is no consumption on him, just like his own innate ability. "Is this okay?" Xia Chen asked, looking at Luffy calmly. Chapter 33. "No, your eyes are the wrong color. I present yen at number. You've been meowing to no end, haven't you?" Xia Chen instantly appeared in front of Luffy with a shaver, and then hit him with a fist wrapped in an armed color. Clang! "It hurts, it hurts!" Luffy shouted loudly, covering the swollen bump on his head. "So, do you think I am me?" Xia Chen's gloomy voice came. Luffy couldn't help but look up. What caught his eye was Xia Chen's gloomy face, which made him shrink down in fright. He hurriedly replied, "Yes, yes, you are Xia Chen." While answering, he got up and stepped back. Zoro looked at Xia Chen and asked, "What was going on in your state just now? Why did you emit such strong killing intent?" "Oh, this. My abilities evolved, and then something went wrong. At that time, I was controlled by murderous intent, so I came here and killed all these fishmen. Including the color of my current pupils are also changes caused by the evolution of my abilities." "Ah!" Nami couldn't help but exclaimed when she heard this, and then asked anxiously, "Then are you still controlled by murder? You were so scary just now." Indeed, I think so too," Usopp said tremblingly after getting up. "You just looked like you wanted to kill us all." Zoro also said lightly. "Don't worry, it's okay. It was just a small accident. Now I can control this murderous intention. Didn't you see that I was able to communicate with you normally in that form just now?" After hearing Xia Chen say that he could control this murderous intention, everyone couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. The killing intent released at that moment almost made them think that Xia Chen was going to kill them. "I am so surprised." Xia Chen looked at the tragic situation around him and couldn't help but touch his nose. But he didn't feel guilty. Eren was not a good person, and he had killed countless humans. Nami also lived a miserable life in his hands for so many years. What he is doing now is completely eliminating harm for the people, and he even thinks that he should be awarded a banner. Then Xia Chen turned his attention to Nami, showed a smile and said, "Nami, you are free." "Yeah, I'm free." Nami smiled equally happily. Luffy also regained the courage to yell at Xia Chen, "You are so treacherous, Xia Chen. I was obviously planning to fight off this Eren, but in the end, you took it all away." "That's right. He killed all the prey by himself. How selfish." Zoro also pouted at the side. "Indeed, I also want to observe the fishman's body structure to better handle the ingredients." This is what Sanji said. "I actually don't mind at all. I totally agree with you helping me defeat my opponent." As for this cowardly sentence, no one except Usopp could say it. After hearing their words, Xia Chen didn't say anything, but raised his hand slightly and pointed at Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji in turn. You, and you. It's all rubbish." What did you say?" The three people who heard this couldn't help it, and looked at Xia Chen with eyes full of anger. What did I say wrong? An idiot captain, a half-dead third-rate swordsman, and a lecherous cook with curled eyebrows. What's wrong with calling you trash? Or do you think that comparing you to trash is an insult to the word trash? In that case, I apologize. It does seem a bit insulting and rubbish." Xia Chen wanted to say something more, but Luffy and the other two could no longer bear it. "Go up and beat him." As soon as the words fell, the three of them rushed towards Xia Chen. Hey, 3 against 1, you don't have martial ethics." Seeing this scene, Nami felt particularly happy and couldn't help laughing. It's really fun to stay with them. In the evening 2 days later, Xia Village. "Hey, Luffy, I fell in love with this piece of meat first." "What do you mean by taking it away?" Xia Chen yelled at Luffy with a piece of meat in his mouth. "You didn't take it. You said it's what you like." Luffy said disdainfully. "You guy." Xia Chen couldn't help but clenched his fists, but suddenly he seemed to think of something, and a sinister smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. "If you dare to mess with me, I will let you know why the flowers are so red later." Xia Chen saw an opportunity and directly received all the meat in front of Luffy into his own system space, then ran away after collecting it. Ah! Luffy, who was eating, suddenly saw the meat in front of him disappear and was stunned for a moment, but when he saw Xia Chen running in the distance, he immediately understood something. He shouted angrily, "Xia Chen, you are cheating." Xia Chen said without looking back, "I got the meat based on my ability, why am I cheating?" Seeing Xia Chen walking away, Luffy jumped up in anger. Fortunately, this time, everything in Xia Village is self-service. If you run out, you can take it again, otherwise he would really bite Xia Chen to death. In one of the alleys, Sanji slowly walked towards Zoro with a bottle of red wine, and then sat down opposite Zoro. "It's quite comfortable to not have to cook for yourself sometimes. By the way, how are you feeling after your injury?" Zoro took a sip of wine and said, "Ah, it's okay. This kind of injury can be cured by just drinking some wine. After that, he took another sip of wine. You really? Sanji is a little helpless, this drunkard. Zoro said, but it's the third day, is it still so lively? This is how a banquet is held. After all, they have been oppressed by Eren for so many years. Now that they are liberated, it is normal for them to be happy. That's right. Sanji threw the red wine in his hand to Zoro, then slowly stood up and said, okay, it's time for me to get down to business. Beautiful ladies, here I come. Eyes closed face, this pervert cook. On the other side, Usopp was also very happy telling his brave story on a high platform. You don't know, I punched Eren to death and made him kneel down to beg for mercy. Kui, you are so awesome. The whole village was immersed in a happy atmosphere at this time. Enjoy this free life without oppression. On a hillside on the island, a lonely grave stood quietly on the top. At this time, there was a girl with orange hair sitting in front of the grave, with a happy smile on her face. Chapter 34. Belmere, do you know? Eren is defeated and the village is finally free. And I am going to be a pirate too. If you were still here, you would definitely support me, right? But it's useless even if you don't support me, I won't listen to you anyway. After finishing speaking, Nami fell silent for a long time. Suddenly, a voice came from behind her. Hey, what are you doing? This voice is... Nami turned around and saw that Xia Chen was staring at her with a smile not far away. Then he slowly walked towards her and sat down next to her. Xia Chen? Why are you here? Nami's voice was filled with surprise. I found that the navigator on our ship was not at the banquet, why didn't I come out to look for him? What did you talk about with your mother? We chatted a lot and basically told her everything. That's great. Your mother would be happy if she knew you were like this. I think so too. Nami blinked at Xia Chen and said with a smile. Suddenly, Xia Chen's eyes focused on Nami's arm. He looked there in a daze and couldn't help but ask, you have this tattoo? Oh, you said this, it's a pattern composed of oranges, windmills, and the sun. Xia Chen was a little confused when he heard Nami's answer. Of course he knew that the tattoos were these three patterns. But the question is, why is there an extra sun? Did he remember that in the original novel, Nami only had oranges and windmills tattooed on her arms? The windmill is in memory of his hometown, Xia Village, and the orange is in memory of his mother, Belmere. So what is this sudden extra sun for? However, Xia Chen didn't ask Nami about the meaning of the sun. Maybe there was something new worth remembering. Suddenly, the atmosphere between the two began to become silent. After a long time, Nami said, I plan to leave all the 100 million belly earned during this period to the villagers. The villagers' life has been quite miserable under Eren's oppression for so many years. Okay. Xia Chen nodded, and then said, the villagers can be proud of being able to get berry from you. After all, who doesn't know that you have nothing to lose? Is 100 million belly enough? If not, I have a few 100 million more. After hearing the first half of the sentence, Nami wanted to pinch Xia Chen, but the next sentence left her stunned. He couldn't help but asked blankly, do you have any personal money? Hey, what is private money? I'm not married, this word is very incorrect. It's just a few 100 million coffins that were saved occasionally, not worth mentioning. Xia Chen waved his hand, with a Versailles expression on his face. But the next second, Nami came over and grabbed his neck, shook him hard and asked, where did you come from, Barry? Don't shake. Xia Chen felt like his stomach was turning. He had been eating and drinking at the banquet just now, and now he felt like he would vomit after being shaken so violently. Nami stopped shaking Xia Chen, but turned her hand to grab Xia Chen's collar. At the same time, she looked at Xia Chen with evil eyes and asked, tell me the truth, where did your berry come from? Can you not say this? Xia Chen said with a guilty look on his forehead, a drop of sweat dripping down his forehead. No. Say it quickly. Oh. Looking at Nami's increasingly fierce eyes, Xia Chen wanted to slap himself. Tell you to talk too much. Isn't it good to keep your own treasures by yourself? If you have to tell me, don't you understand that wealth should not be exposed? You must have drunk too much to say this. Drinking is misleading. Xia Chen said slowly, I took a little bit from Crow before, and then I also took 100 million points from Eren's paradise this time. Finally, it was the marine who came the day before yesterday. Do you remember? Is that the one who looks like a mouse? Nami asked after recalling it. That's right. I also got 100 million points of berry from him. Actually, it's not much. Not much means how many? Nami asked immediately. 5 million berries. Xia Chen tentatively reported a number. But Nami didn't say anything, but stared at him intently. Hey, don't look at me like that. I'm not lying to you. It's really. Well, actually it's 10 million berries. Nami still didn't speak, still looking at him quietly. No, I really didn't lie to you. It's really just 20 million berries. After a while, Nami stared at the pile of treasures in front of her with shining eyes, while Xia Chen on the other side was a little speechless. Nami turned to look at Xia Chen and said angrily, Mr. Xia Chen, you are so awesome. In just a short time, you got 100 million belly. If it were me, I don't know how long it would take me to get so much. Also, I asked why the treasure on Crow's ship was empty last time. It turned out that you were the first to take action. You are indeed the originator of the rescue. You are so quick to take action now. Hearing Nami's sarcastic words, Xia Chen didn't say anything, but gave her a hateful look. He asked unwillingly, you have to give me at least 10 million berries out of 100 million berries, right? Otherwise it's a bit unreasonable. This is the result of my hard work for so long. Well. Nami pondered for a moment, then said, you make sense. Xia Chen's eyes lit up. Really? I think it makes sense too. In this case. Nami took out a pile of berries from a pile of treasures on the ground, worth about 100,000, and handed it to Xia Chen. Here, I'll give this to you. You can't take any more. Any more will make it unjustifiable. In an instant, Xia Chen's anger level increased rapidly, and he was about to become a Super Saiyan. After a few breaths, Xia Chen slowly suppressed the anger in his heart and watched Nami snort and take the 100,000 belly from her hand. Don't give it up for free. Although 100,000 berries is a little less, it will be more if you save it. Wealth is accumulated. Then Xia Chen looked at Nami and said hummingly, you can just move this pile of treasures back by yourself, hum. Then he slowly turned around and walked down the mountain. He wanted to leave this sad place. Looking at Xia Chen's angrily leaving figure, Nami couldn't help but laugh out loud. Why do you feel Xia Chen is cute for no reason? Then her eyes couldn't help but fall on the sun pattern on her arm. There was a hint of tenderness in his eyes. Chapter 35. She will never forget that one day a man appeared in her world, hugged her and said, don't worry, I'm here. At that moment, she felt that this man was like the sun lighting up her dark world. It was also from that moment that she decided that no matter what happened in the future, she would face it bravely, because she had him by her side. The Sunday is really a beautiful thing. Xia Chen walked slowly on the way down the mountain, holding the 100,000 berries in his hands. The next moment, a smile appeared on his lips and he put the 100,000 berries into the system space. Then he turned and glanced in Nami's direction. Then he continued walking down the mountain. I couldn't help but think proudly, young man, are you trying to show off your acting skills with me? I wonder if he goes to act, will he definitely get an Oscar? That's right, Xia Chen doesn't only have 100 million berries. Just kidding, the entire savings of the Arlong pirates over the years are more than this. And when Colonel Mouse came that day, he not only asked him for help, but followed him directly back to Marine Station. Just a small visit to the entire Marine branch. Even Xia Chen himself didn't know how much treasure he got, but it should be about 300 million berries. Because the treasures he just gave to Nami were only 1/3 of his total treasures. Thinking of this, Xia Chen had to sigh that these two guys are really fat, and they made him rich instantly. But the distress he showed in front of Nami just now is also true. Although he only took out part of it, it was still 1/3. It's just like cutting blood. It seems that I must never expose the fact that I am rich in front of Nami in the future, otherwise I don't know how I will be exploited. Well, since you are in such an unhappy mood, let's go ahead and have a drink. The next morning, on the coast, Xia Chen and others continued to transport things to the melee, and at the same time, he also placed a lot of things in his own system space. Most of them are ingredients, but there is a lot less meat to eat. Now that Sanji is on board, we can stock up on more ingredients instead of cooked food. After all, Sanji's food is much better than most restaurants. After transporting all the supplies, Xia Chen lay on the bow of the melee. Under the warm sunshine and the gentle sea breeze, Xia Chen fell asleep again without knowing it. It wasn't until there was a noise that he woke up in a daze. Xia Chen slowly sat up and looked towards the place where the sound came from. At this time, Nami was standing behind the crowd and glanced at Xia Chen. At this moment, Xia Chen immediately understood what she meant and shouted to everyone on the boat, "Weigh anchor and sail the boat." "What? But Nami hasn't." Usopp asked doubtfully, but was interrupted by Xia Chen before he finished speaking. "Believe me." Seeing Xia Chen's appearance, everyone on the boat started to take action out of trust in Xia Chen, and then the boat slowly started moving. The villagers standing on the shore still didn't know what happened. I couldn't help but asked curiously. Why did this ship sail? But after only a moment of curiosity, they returned their attention to Nami in front of them. Jian told them about Nami leaving 100 million belly to them. Everyone was very moved at this time. It was obvious that she had worked hard to steal it for so many years. "Xiao Na, let us say goodbye to you properly, don't leave in a hurry. It's just that we haven't thanked you properly yet." After listening to the villagers' words, Nami showed a smile, and then said lightly, "That's not necessary." As soon as she finished speaking, Nami began to shuttle among the crowd. When she walked past everyone, she finally arrived at the shore. Then, using the inertia of the sprint, he jumped hard and finally landed firmly on the armrest of the melee. The villagers at the back were still wondering why Nami didn't say goodbye to them before leaving, but they understood instantly when they saw Nami's next move. I saw Nami standing on the deck, lifting her shirt up slightly, and then each wallet dropped on the boat like dumplings. That is. A huge shout broke out from the crowd. "How brave you are, you little brat! You little thief cat, you are still a thief and you even steal the wallets of people in the village. Damn it, Nami, never let me see you again. Xiao Na, you must take good care of yourself. Be happy forever." The initial curses among the villagers gradually turned into blessings and reluctance to leave Nami. And Nami couldn't help but shed tears looking at this scene. "Everyone, goodbye." A few days later, somewhere above the sea, a pirate ship with a straw hat skull and crossbones flag was sailing slowly. At this time, some discordant sounds came from the ship. "What do you mean? Why has the price of newspapers increased?" Nami squinted at the newspaper delivery bird in front of her, her eyes filled with displeasure. Then he pointed at it and said, "I won't buy it if the price goes up again next time, you know. It's just money for a newspaper, is this necessary?" Usopp asked curiously from the side. "You don't understand. 1 day is 1 share, so 10 days is not 10 shares. If you add up a little, it's not a small amount. The more things like berry, the better. I don't want to be a beautiful girl who doesn't have money to dress up." Usopp. Then Nami sat on the stool, flipped through the newspaper he just got, and said, "The sea has not been peaceful lately, and some turbulent things have happened." Just when Nami finished reading this page and turned to the next page, 2 pieces of paper fell from the middle of the newspaper. "Well, this is it." Nami picked it up and looked at it curiously. The next second, her eyes widened with a horrified expression. "Reward order!" A sudden shout attracted everyone's attention. Everyone showed interest when they heard the reward order. "Wow, there are a full 25 million berry!" Luffy said happily, holding the reward in his hand. Usopp on the side also smiled and said, "Now the whole world can see my heroic appearance." Sanji was a little curious when he heard this and couldn't help but ask, "Isn't this Luffy's reward order? Why do you say this?" "Hat, who said I can't show up because of Luffy's bounty? Here, let me show you my uncle." Usopp said as he pointed to a place where Luffy's bounty was placed. "Sanji, you obviously only exposed the back of your head." Chapter 36. So what? At least I can appear on the reward order, can you? You. Sanji was full of dissatisfaction, but could not think of anything to retort for the moment. At this time, Nami who was standing by could not stand it anymore and said to them angrily, "Do you think being rewarded is a good thing? It means we will be in constant trouble in the future. Do you understand it or not?" But Luffy and Usopp didn't care about her and were still entertaining themselves. Seeing this, Nami couldn't help but sigh. "Hey, I feel tired. But these are not the things that worry her the most. What worries her more now is From the corner of Nami's eyes, she glanced at Xia Chen, who was leaning on the boat. Hey, Xia Chen, are you also offering a reward? Sanji asked Xia Chen after seeing what he had in his hand. That's right. Xia Chen nodded. When they heard this, Luffy and Usopp who were playing around stopped and all came to Xia Chen. Xia Chen, how much is your reward? Well, I'm afraid you won't be able to accept it if I tell you, so you better see it for yourselves. Xia Chen handed the reward order in his hand to everyone. 300 million belly. The three of them couldn't help but gasped and screamed. Hey, you guys are so noisy. Zoro woke up in a daze and looked at several people and complained. But at this time, the three of them opened their mouths wide and didn't pay attention to what he said at all. Zoro walked over slowly, saw the reward order turned over on the ground, and couldn't help but pick it up curiously. Then, the number of people with widened eyes and mouths increased from the original 3 to 4. The picture on the reward order is what Xia Chen looks like after being transformed into a demon. He's a bit handsome. But the title below is what Xia Chen is most satisfied with. Demon King Xia Chen. This is the title Marine gave Xia Chen. For a time, Xia Chen had an inexplicable liking for the person in Marine who proposed this title. All I can say is that he is very smart. Luffy asked unwillingly, why is your bounty so high? It's 10 times as much as mine. No. Xia Chen waved his hand, and then said seriously, we must be more rigorous when speaking, not 10 times, but 12 times. As for why the bounty is so high, I don't know. Maybe they noticed the strong aura in me after all. I'm not like some weaklings who only have a bounty of 25 million, and there are even a few who don't even have a bounty. It's embarrassing to say that. If I were these people, I wouldn't even dare to say that I'm a pirate. There's not even a bit of bounty on it. To say it's a pirate is an insult to the word pirate. Xia Chen said in an arrogant tone, while raising his head slightly, looking at the few novices in front of him with contempt in his eyes. In an instant, the eyes of the 4 people in front of him were blazing with fire, and they looked at Xia Chen with evil eyes. Everyone. Zoro opened his mouth calmly, and then the other 3 people had a tacit understanding at this time and rushed towards Xia Chen at the same time. Bang! Bang! This is how an unfair 4-on-1 battle began. Hey, I didn't say it was you, why are you taking the seats yourself? Xia Chen said unwillingly. But only the fists of 4 people responded to him. Seeing this, Xia Chen also became angry. Lao Zi, how can someone like Lao Zi, who has a bounty of 300 million on his head, be bullied by a few of you who collectively don't have as much as me? Die to Lao Zi! Bang! Bang! At the same time, Luffy and Xia Chen's bounty orders were also known around the world. The East China Sea, somewhere on the sea. On a Heartskull pirate ship, a man with a red nose gritted his teeth as he looked at Luffy's bounty. As for Xia Chen's reward order next to him, he ignored it. Although the bounty of 300 million is very high, it has nothing to do with him. The Straw Hat Boy is his enemy. Buggy didn't recognize Xia Chen in the reward order at all, mainly because the gap between Xia Chen's normal image and his demonized image was indeed a bit big. It makes sense that Buggy wouldn't recognize him. Damn Straw Hat Boy, if it weren't for you, Lao Zi wouldn't be in this situation now. When Lao Zi finds you, he will definitely kill you. Is he the one who defeated you? A woman with a good figure and a beautiful face asked calmly as she walked out of the darkness. Unfortunately, I was also beaten away by him. The pain is still very impressive to this day. A hole, whose nose are you talking about? Arita? Did she say this just now? Why didn't she have any impression? Buggy, if you have a bad ear, you can have it cured. I said Straw Hat Boy is our common enemy. If you want to deal with him, bring me with you. Hey? I didn't expect you to have a grudge against Straw Hat. Buggy asked in surprise. Although he has been on this ship for a while, he really doesn't know what happened between Arita and the Straw Hat Boy. It seems that this Straw Hat Boy is really a troublemaker and can get involved with anyone. I think so too. Arita said, licking her bright red lips. You actually said I have a red nose. The island where the red-haired pirates are located is located offshore. A crossboat slowly approached the island. Several pirates on duty suddenly saw something on the sea in the distance, and couldn't help but pick up their telescopes and take a look. It doesn't matter if you don't look at it, it almost scares their souls out of their wits when they look at it. Eagle, Hawkeye. When Eagle Eye came to the island, he ignored these minions and walked directly towards the center. After a while, he walked in front of the red hair and others. The red-haired man was a little surprised to see Hawkeye's arrival, and then said dully, "Hawkeye, are you here for a duel with me? I'm a little uncomfortable right now. I never thought about dueling with a man who had a broken arm." Hawkeye said calmly. "I just suddenly remembered the pirate you mentioned before and came to show it to you." As he said that, Hawkeye took out Luffy's bounty list and handed it to the red-haired man. Luffy. A smile suddenly appeared on the red-haired face, and his eyes stayed on Luffy's reward order. "It's really been a long time." Just when the red-haired man wanted to say something, Hawkeye's words stopped him in place. "By the way, I also brought your nephew's reward list this time, but he looks a little strange." "Hey!" The redhead blinked. He understood every word Hawkeye said, but why couldn't he understand it when connected together? "My nephew." Chapter 37. The redhead asked again uncertainly. Looking at the red hair's expression, Hawkeye was also confused. "Don't you know your own nephew? Could it be?" After some time the red-haired man and Hawkeye sat together, taking a sip or two of the wine next to them from time to time. But both of them remained silent in tacit agreement. Time passed like this for another 10 seconds. "Ha ha ha. This kid, I didn't know I had such a nephew. It's interesting. And the first bounty was 300 million. Could it be that he did something earth-shattering? This makes me want to meet my nephew." Hawkeye next to him said calmly with an unhappy tone, "If nothing else goes wrong, I should take part of the credit for the bounty he has placed. I fought with him once at sea, and the reason he convinced me to fight him was because he said he was your nephew. I guess the battle between me and him was known somehow, so his bounty is so high. But his strength is definitely worth the bounty." "Hey!" The red-haired man looked at him in surprise after hearing what Hawkeye said. "I've rarely heard you approve of a young man so much." Hawkeye took another sip of wine and said calmly, "Although I'm a little upset that this kid lied to me, to be honest, his personality is quite to my liking, and his strength is basically unmatched by anyone at his age. But no matter what, he lied to me this time. It seems that I have to have a good communication with him next time I meet him." "Ha ha ha, Hawkeye, don't be so stingy. I recognize this nephew, so I don't think he is lying to you." "Hawkeye, don't you know that in certain cases it is useless to promise after the fact?" A faint smile appeared on the redhead's lips. Looking into the distance. "Why do you want to meet this nephew? East China Sea, aboard the Malio, is Rogtown just ahead? I really want to go quickly and see the place where One Piece was born and died." Luffy hugged the goat head of the melee with one hand and did it with the other hand. "Look out!" On the more spacious deck on the other side of the ship, the sound of gold and iron was heard constantly. At this time, Zoro was holding the word Wado Human and slashed forward. The whirring sound of breaking through the air symbolized the power of this knife, but at this time, this seemingly powerful blow was clamped by two dark fingers and could not move. Xia Chen held Zoro's knife between his two fingers and patted his mouth with his other hand, making a bored and sleepy expression. "It's full of irony. Did you see it? This is the difference between no bounty and a bounty of 300 million. The difference is unimaginable by a third-rate swordsman like you," Xia Chen said calmly. But at this time, he looked at Zoro with a slightly helpless look. For some reason, since he saw Xia Chen's 300 million bounty a few days ago, he didn't know if he was ashamed that he didn't have any bounty at all. During this period, he came to challenge Xia Chen every day. At first, Xia Chen was quite interested in playing with Zoro a few times, but the gap between Zoro's current strength and him was really a bit big. So after playing for a few times, Xia Chen lost interest and just knocked Zoro down casually. But Zoro was like taking the wrong medicine. He kept challenging Xia Chen, even if Xia Chen didn't agree to him. He directly attacked Xia Chen, regardless of whether Xia Chen agreed or not. This makes Xia Chen very angry, just because he won't kill him, right? Later, when Xia Chen really got annoyed, he actually struck a little harder, but Zoro was still the same, always looking for a fight with Xia Chen as soon as he got better. Now for Xia Chen, fighting with Zoro every day has become his daily task. But there is one thing to say, Zoro is indeed a little stronger now than when he first challenged him. Although it is still a serious matter for him, the growth is indeed real. So now Xia Chen also wants to understand that in order to improve Zoro's strength, he should reluctantly be his sparring partner who makes him a deputy captain who thinks about the crew. Xia Chen flicked Zoro's knife away and said to him, the speed is good, but the strength is too bad. So, how is your understanding of the iron-cutting realm now? It's still a little bit close. It always feels very close, but there is just a missing opportunity. That's it. Xia Chen touched his chin. Thanks to his presence, Zoro came into contact with the realm of cutting iron a while earlier than in the original work. But this thing can only be understood by Zoro himself. As for the way of swordsmanship, he knows everything from 7 to 6, he knows nothing. His only role may be to be Zoro's sparring partner. Hey, we've arrived in Rog Town. Sanji's voice came from the bow of the boat, attracting Xia Chen's attention. Is it finally here? A smile appeared on Xia Chen's lips. He is still very interested in Rog Town. Of course, it's not because this is the place where One Piece was born and died. He is not interested in this. What really interested him was someone in Rogue Town at this point in time. Of course, another very important thing is that you can check into a new island again. I wonder what good things I can get this time. After some time. Ding, I successfully played in Rogue Town, and my arrogance has been upgraded to intermediate level. As the sound of the system fell, a feeling of clarity suddenly appeared in Xia Chen's mind. When the feeling dissipated, Xia Chen unconsciously exuded his domineering aura. After feeling it carefully, Xia Chen showed a happy smile. Although the improvement of the domineering power of the world has not greatly improved his strength, but his range of perception and perception are enhanced. This is still pretty good. It was just convenient for what he was going to do next. Rog Town is the last island opened in the East China Sea. The next time I visit the island, it will only be in the Grand Channel. Thinking of this, Xia Chen couldn't help but open his system panel to see how much stronger he was now compared to when he started. Name, Xia Chen Fruit, Renren Fruit Monkey King Form, Intermediate, Ability, Indestructible Body, Intermediate Level, Flaming Eyes, 6 Postures, Demonized Form Armed Color Dominance, Elementary Informed and Domineering, Intermediate Conqueror's Haki, Elementary. Chapter 38. Okay, Xia Chen can't estimate his own strength by looking at the panel. His panel is a bit simple. And even though a lot of the things here are elementary, the gold content of this elementary level is quite high. Take the primary weapon color that Xia Chen now masters as an example, combined with his battles during this period. He came to a conclusion. His weapon color level now is similar to Luffy's original weapon color level 2 years later. You must know that Luffy practiced for a long time before he reached this level. And Xia Chen only needs to simply check in on the island, which is so exciting. While thinking, Xia Chen and others had arrived at the outskirts of Rog Town. Luffy said, I want to go to the execution platform and take a look. I'm going to buy a knife. I'm going to buy clothes. I'm going to buy equipment. I'm going to buy ingredients. I'm going, without telling you. For a moment, everyone looked towards Xia Chen. You're a bit unbecoming of a human being. You've concealed your whereabouts, right? This is what everyone wanted to say, but Xia Chen disappeared before they could say this. Everyone who saw this scene couldn't help but feel itchy with hatred. Let's see if you can still play like this when they become stronger. Immediately, everyone separated here and walked towards their own destinations. Xia Chen quickly shuttled through Rog Town, and at the same time, he used all his strength to sense the surroundings. Suddenly, when he passed by a place, he heard a familiar name. Are you Luffy? This discovery made Xia Chen stop and step forward, wondering in his heart. Isn't Luffy going to the execution platform? It seems to be quite far away from the execution platform. Could it be that Luffy also inherited Zoro's road crazy attribute? When Xia Chen saw the specific situation, he couldn't help but twitch the corners of his mouth slightly. I saw a marine smoking a cigar looking at the pirate in front of him with a condescending expression. What he said just now was also what he said. Smoker. Xia Chen whispered softly. Then he was about to leave. He was not interested in Smoker. But many times if you don't look for trouble, trouble will find you. Hey, that guy over there, wait. Smoker's voice came from behind. Xia Chen turned his head, showing a puzzled expression. Are you talking about me? Yes, it's you. Have we met somewhere? Smoker asked uncertainly. He always felt that Xia Chen's appearance was very familiar, and he was sure that he had only seen him recently, but he couldn't remember it, so he asked Xia Chen directly. No, Master Marine, this is my first time coming to this island. Xia Chen said helplessly, spreading his hands. Well. Smoker looked at Xia Chen and pondered. Looking at Xia Chen's face, I just feel more and more familiar. After all, such handsome people are rare. While Smoker was brainstorming, the pirate next to him who was mistaken for Luffy was unhappy. What do you mean, being in a daze in front of him, a vicious pirate, right? Do you dare to respect his identity as a pirate? So, he couldn't help it. Damn Marine, you dare to ignore me like this, go to hell. As soon as he finished speaking, the pirate took out a pistol from his pocket and fired several shots at Smoker. But what happened next almost made his eyes pop out. When the bullet hit Smoker's body, it penetrated directly, and Smoker's body turned into white smoke. Weird, monster. The pirate was so frightened that he slumped to the ground and looked at Smoker with fear in his eyes. This was the first time he saw a human who was immune to pistols. Smoker ignored him and waved gently. The few marines behind him instantly understood what he meant, and walked up to the pirate to subdue him. This level of pirates is more than enough for even an ordinary marine to deal with. At this moment, Smoker was still trying his best to search for memories in his mind, trying hard to remember who Xia Chen was. 1 minute later Xia Chen looked at Smoker who was still thinking and couldn't help but said, "Mr. Marine, if there's nothing else, I'll leave first." Smoker still didn't speak, still looking thoughtful. Seeing this scene, Xia Chen ignored him and turned around and walked back. However, before Xia Chen took a few steps, Smoker's voice came from behind. "Demon King, Xia Chen." "Hey." Xia Chen turned his head in confusion, looked at Smoker and asked in confusion, "Master Marine, are you talking about me?" Smoker looked at Xia Chen's face and couldn't help but take out the reward warrant in his arms. After some comparison, he asked again, "Are you the Demon King Xia Chen?" He said that the more he looked at it, the more familiar it seemed. It turned out that he had seen Xia Chen's reward order this morning, but because the image on the reward order was a little different from the current image of Xia Chen, he didn't react at once. It made him think about it for so long. Xia Chen made a surprised expression and said fearfully, "Mr. Marine, what are you talking about? How could I be a criminal on the wanted order? Although I say I look a bit like him, I'm really not him. You don't want to fish for law enforcement, do you?" Speaking of this, Xia Chen looked just right and angry. Smoker took a deep look at Xia Chen, and then instantly turned into a white wave of air and rushed towards Xia Chen. But Xia Chen stood there blankly, as if he didn't react. As Smoker's fist got closer and closer, Xia Chen still did not dodge. Finally, Smoker's fist stopped 1 centimeter in front of Xia Chen, and the wind from the fist blew up Xia Chen's hair. "Hi! Marine is hitting someone!" Xia Chen yelled, and the voice resounded through the sky, attracting the attention of everyone around him. But when they saw Smoker here, they all turned their attention back. They saw nothing. Smoker looked at the frightened Xia Chen in front of him and said nothing. Instead, he took out a stack of Baileys from his pocket, which seemed to be worth tens of thousands. "I'm sorry, this is the only Bailey I have on me." After saying that, Smoker turned around and walked elsewhere. What he didn't see was that the corners of Xia Chen's mouth turned up a little after he left. Xia Chen shook Bailey in his hand. Another profit. If Xia Chen didn't want Smoker to discover his identity now and cause him to search for him all over the town, Xia Chen would have just shaved off and left. But now the result is not bad. As for why Xia Chen didn't hide away until Smoker was about to attack him until the last moment. Chapter 39. Is it because you believe in Smoker? Of course, this was partly because Xia Chen didn't believe that Akainu would be merciful if he was facing him. It is Akainu's principle of life to rather kill the wrong person than let him go. But the most important thing is that Xia Chen has sharp eyes and can observe Smoker's internal condition at all times. This was the real reason why Xia Chen didn't dodge until the last moment. Otherwise, you really have to rely on trusting the other person's character, which would be too unrealistic. After casually putting the berry in his hand into the system space, Xia Chen continued to gallop through Rog Town. 10 minutes later, when Xia Chen sensed a certain breath, the corners of his mouth raised slightly, revealing a smile. Finally found it. Xia Chen came to the place where he sensed the aura and found that it was a very old tavern. It was quiet inside and there was not a single voice from a customer. But, now there is. Xia Chen pushed the gate of opening and walked in. The two people inside unconsciously turned their eyes when they heard the door open. One of them is a man in a green cloak sitting outside the bar, and the other is an old man sitting inside the bar who looks like the boss. Yo, hello. Boss, give me a glass of rum. Xia Chen walked directly to the bar and said to the old man. Although the old man was a little surprised by Xia Chen's arrival, he still went to get him a glass of wine. Taking advantage of the old man's break to get the wine, Xia Chen greeted the man next to him. Hello, Dragon, are you here to meet Luffy? As soon as Xia Chen finished speaking, an extremely powerful conqueror's domineering energy emanated from the dragon and pressed towards Xia Chen. At the same time, his eyes were sharp as he looked at Xia Chen and asked word by word, Who are you? Why do you know me? And you seem to know something. At this time, Xia Chen, who was opposite him, felt a sense of oppression on his body. On the surface, he was very calm, but deep down he was very surprised. Should I be said to be worthy of being the leader of the revolutionary army? This conqueror's dominance is so powerful. Xia Chen replied calmly, Don't be so nervous. I'm the vice captain of the spaceship. If you've seen his reward order, you should have seen mine too. Hey! After hearing this, Long seemed to think of something, then looked at Xia Chen and asked uncertainly, Demon King Xia Chen. Bingo! Xia Chen snapped his fingers, a touch of pride appearing on his face. Not because of anything else, but because this title is really. It felt so good to his heart that he couldn't help but give a thumbs up to the person in Marine who had this title. You are a bit different from the bounty order, Long said calmly, and then the conqueror's domineering energy disappeared from him. After learning that Xia Chen was a crew member on the Lu spaceship, Long became less vigilant towards Xia Chen. He believed in Luffy's vision and the quality of the companion he found would definitely not be bad. Wouldn't do anything to harm him. But in a blink of an eye, he asked another question that he was more curious about. By the way, how did you know about the relationship between Luffy and me? Garp said that. Xia Chen said seriously that he was lying. As long as the person involved is not here, Xia Chen will try his best to make him go away. Anyway, this is not the first time he has done this. After hearing Xia Chen's words, Long Bujuo wanted him, because not many people knew that Luffy was his son. And Garp has the greatest chance of doing such a thing. So this is normal. But since Garp can tell Xia Chen this, it proves that the man in front of him is a trustworthy person. Suddenly, Long's eyes became much more friendly when he looked at Xia Chen. Xia Chen was also completely relieved. People who have been double certified by his Laozi and his son, he can rest assured. So, why did you come to me this time? Long asked curiously. He didn't know that Xia Chen knew that he was on the island in advance, he just thought he was discovered by chance. Nothing, I just came to meet the leader of the revolutionary army, Luffy's father. Look at the courage of a leader who dares to openly oppose the world government. So how do you feel now that you've seen it? Long asked with a raised brow. Not bad. Xia Chen pondered for a moment and then said seriously. Ha 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 ha. Long suddenly laughed, looking at Xia Chen with an inexplicable meaning in his eyes. I thought that my strength was pretty good in this world, and I thought my courage was pretty good, but I didn't expect that you only had an okay rating. Boy, your scoring standards are quite high. Of course, after all, I use myself as the standard to judge, so naturally it's just a little higher. Long became interested when he heard this and couldn't help but ask, so your evaluation of yourself is average? No, no, no. Xia Chen shook his head, and after thinking for a while, he said, that means simply being number one in the world. Long was stunned on the spot. Your evaluation of me is okay, but your evaluation of yourself is the best in the world, right? However, Long was a person who had seen the world. He was not angry, but said calmly, you are quite confident in yourself, which is a good thing, but, young people still need to restrain themselves. Too much confidence is not a good thing. So, how about you try to hurt my self-confidence? At this moment, Xia Chen finally stated his purpose. That's right, he came to Long just to fight with him. Oh, no, to put it more politely, it should be called verifying one's own strength. He is very curious about what level of strength he can reach after turning on the demonic state, because this will determine how arrogant he is as a person. The first requirement for someone who can activate his demonic state and fight with all his strength is to be very strong. The second is that people are willing to fight him and show mercy to him. Otherwise, if he breaks into the Marine headquarters now, there will definitely be many people willing to fight him, but if nothing happens, he will most likely go to Impel Down to recuperate after the fight. And obviously, the dragon meets all the above conditions. I can't say it in terms of strength, but it must be very strong. In addition, according to Xia Chen's rounding, Dafalong is his uncle. The uncle must be merciful to his nephew, right? When his thoughts came to this, Xia Chen felt a little dazed for a moment. Why did he feel that he liked to recognize his uncle recently? Chen has been wandering for half his life, but he only regrets that he has never met his master. If he doesn't give up, Chen is willing to worship him as his adoptive father. No, no, no. Xia Chen shook his head vigorously. He is recognizing his uncle, not his adoptive father, so he is colluding with him. Long looked at Xia Chen steadily, and after a long time he said, since you have this idea, then I will play with you. Then let's go and find a deserted place on the island. After saying that, Xia Chen disappeared instantly. Seeing this scene, Long shook his head lightly. Young man, you are still too impatient. You don't even wait for me, an elder. After saying that, his figure disappeared. Instantly. Chapter 40. Above a forest outside Rog Town, a line of white smoke was galloping in a certain direction at an extremely fast speed. The expression on Smoker's face was very solemn. Just half an hour ago, he was searching for traces of the Straw Hats in Rog Town. Suddenly, a huge wave of fighting was felt coming from outside the town. Immediately, he rushed to the source of the battle fluctuations without any hesitation. It was already close to the edge of the island, some distance away from Rog Town, so even after half an hour's journey, he still hadn't arrived yet. Moreover, the fluctuations of the fighting had stopped a few minutes ago, and he didn't know if he would be able to see the fighting people when he arrived. And judging from the fluctuations that just came over, he is definitely far from the opponent of the person fighting. But he came over without hesitation. Rog Town was the territory under his jurisdiction, and he wanted to ensure that no problems would arise. If you want to destroy this place, step over his corpse first. At this time, in the center of the battlefield, two people stood here quietly. Long looked at Xia Chen in front of him in surprise, and he understood why Xia Chen was so confident in him. If he had this strength at Xia Chen's age, he would be more arrogant than Xia Chen. Thinking of this, Long inexplicably wanted to recruit Xia Chen, and couldn't help but ask Xia Chen, are you interested in joining the Revolutionary Army? Join the Revolutionary Army? Xia Chen was stunned for a moment. He didn't expect that Long would have the idea of letting him join the Revolutionary Army, but he was not interested. Forget it, I still prefer to be a pirate. How wonderful it is to be free. Okay, my goal has been achieved, so I will go back first. After saying that, Xia Chen turned around and walked towards Rog Town. At this time, Smoker also rushed here and bumped into Xia Chen, who was about to leave. Hey, Master Marine, I didn't expect to meet you in such a remote place. What a fate! Xia Chen said hello to Smoker. But Smoker seemed not to hear his words at this time, but looked at the scene with horror on his face. What he saw in front of him was a piece of land that was destroyed everywhere, and the surrounding trees were all turned into sawdust. A hollow area of several miles in radius was formed in the forest. Xia Chen looked at him like this and did not bother him. Instead, he walked slowly past him. Just when he was about to use the moon cloth to rush back to Rog Town, Smoker stopped him again as before. Demon King Xia Chen. The same words came out of Smoker's mouth, but the difference from the first meeting was that his tone this time was no longer full of questions, but full of affirmation. It's me. Xia Chen did not deny his identity like before this time, but admitted it openly. He has no reason to pretend anymore. His goal has been achieved, so he is not afraid of trouble now. How dare you lie to me? I'm going to take you into Impel Down. After saying that, Smoker rushed towards Xia Chen and pulled out the 10 hands on his back. In his opinion, since the current Xia Chen looks different from the one in the reward order, it must be because of eating the devil fruit. And the weapon inlaid with the Sea Tower Stone in his hand is the nemesis of those with devil fruit abilities. It's a pity that imagination is beautiful, but reality is very skinny. He misjudged one thing. The strength gap between him and Xia Chen was too huge. Xia Chen didn't even turn around, but just dodged Smoker's attack slightly. How is it possible? Smoker was shocked, with a drop of cold sweat streaming down his face. Then Xia Chen's faint voice came to his ears. Master Marine, you are brave. Do you think my 300 million bounty is just water? Or, are you too confident in your Logia abilities? Bang! Smoker flew backwards at a speed many times faster than the attack, and then hit the ground heavily several hundred meters away. Pfft! Smoker couldn't help but vomit a mouthful of blood as soon as he struggled to get up. Looking at Xia Chen, his eyes were full of solemnity. Master Marine, your strength is a bit weak, you want to catch me? It's 100,000 years too early. After that, Xia Chen continued to walk outside. Suddenly after taking a few steps, he stopped and waved towards Smoker. By the way, thank you Barry. That's too much. Smoker struggled to get up from the ground. Even if he couldn't defeat Xia Chen, he would still go to find him. But at this moment, a hand held down his body as he was about to get up. You can't beat him. Smoker slowly raised his head and looked at the man in front of him, with shock in his eyes. Just now, his attention was focused on Xia Chen, and he didn't notice the identity of the other person here at all. Dragon. When Xia Chen returned to Rog Town, he just saw a huge thunder striking from the sky. Ha ha ha. I can't die. Luffy said happily after patting his straw hat. At the same time, it began to rain heavily, accompanied by strong winds. Seeing this scene, Xia Chen said directly to Luffy, "Let's go, Luffy, Marine has already taken action. If we don't leave, it will be too late." "Oh, it's Xia Chen, why are you here?" Luffy heard someone calling him and said happily after realizing it was Xia Chen. After hearing this, Xia Chen couldn't help but help his forehead. No wonder the Straw Hats in the original work always escape to the limit. Isn't the way you chat just to let Marine find you? Don't worry about why I'm here. Now, will you listen to me? Marine, here you go, so run away, do you understand? Oh, I understand, I understand. Luffy nodded. Then why are you still standing there? Run. Xia Chen said angrily, looking at Luffy who was still standing still. Oh, good. Luffy ran out immediately, but... Straw Hat, stop. Buggy's voice came from behind. But what Xia Chen didn't expect was that Luffy really stopped. Seeing this scene, Xia Chen couldn't bear it anymore. Damn it, you like ink so much, don't you? Xia Chen looked at the direction and found that there was a long alley at this location that could lead directly to the outside of the town. Then a smile appeared on the corner of Xia Chen's mouth. Yangsha instantly appeared next to Luffy, looked at Luffy and sneered, "Since you don't want to leave by yourself, then let me help you." Then after taking aim, Xia Chen kicked Luffy out. In an instant, Luffy flew towards the outside of the town at extremely fast speeds. Xia Chen, who was standing there, clapped his hands and showed a smile. Isn't this much faster? It really is. Chapter 41. After finishing everything, Xia Chen turned to look at Buggy and others behind him. Hey, if you don't leave, Marine will be here later. Are you sure you want to drag your feet here? However, Buggy ignored Xia Chen's words and instead stood up and looked at him angrily. UBD, how dare you let the Straw Hat boy go? Do you know that I almost killed him just now? Hey! Hearing Buggy's question, Xia Chen's eyes turned cold, and he appeared next to Buggy the next second. He is my captain. The word let go is not appropriate. And even if he doesn't leave, do you think I will let you delay us here? Buggy, you are a bit arrogant. Looking at Xia Chen, Buggy who appeared in front of him instantly, he couldn't help being startled and took a few steps back. He didn't see clearly how Xia Chen appeared next to him just now, and he couldn't help but feel a little fear in his heart. However, what Arita said next almost frightened him so much that his cerebellum shrank. "Ba! Buggy, he seems to be the Demon King Xia Chen." "What?" Buggy yelled at Arita in horror. "That's right, Arita. After eating the slippery fruit, you become more beautiful and your eyes are different. You're flattering." Arita forced a smile and said to Xia Chen. The man in front of her was a man with a bounty of 300 million, which made her a little panicked standing in front of him with a bounty of only 5 million. And there was a reason why she could recognize Xia Chen so quickly. The main reason was that she had never seen anyone more handsome than Xia Chen, especially the demonic appearance on the reward order, adding a touch of evil charm to the handsomeness. She would often watch this bounty order doing something happy in the dead of night, so even though Xia Chen was not demonized now, that face was already deeply embedded in her mind. Realita couldn't help but blush when she thought of this, and her legs tightened unconsciously. Seeing Arita's blushing face, even Xia Chen had to admit that her current appearance was first-rate among the women he had ever seen. But when he thought of her former appearance as a fat woman, Xia Chen couldn't help but feel disgusted and quickly looked away. Otherwise, you will feel nauseous later. Xia Chen turned his attention to Buggy again. At this time, Buggy had completely lost his previous arrogance. His legs were constantly shaking and he stammered, "Demon. Lord Demon King, I spoke too loudly just now. My mouth just doesn't listen to me sometimes. It's all my fault." At this point, Buggy looked hard, raised his palm and slapped half of his face hard. In an instant, half of his face began to swell up at a speed visible to the naked eye, and then he tremblingly said to Xia Chen again, "Look, I have already taught it a lesson, so why don't you treat me like a fart?" Xia Chen was also stunned when he saw this scene. Buggy God tier is Buggy God tier, so cruel. However, after Buggy's operation, Xia Chen's little anger disappeared immediately. In fact, he didn't intend to do anything to Buggy, he just wanted to scare him. After all, he didn't look at the monk's face but also the Buddha's face. Based on his relationship with the red hair, Xia Chen wouldn't do anything to him. Of course, the premise is that Buggy has not touched his bottom line, otherwise if he really makes him angry, he will still FK him even if the red hair is here, not to mention that the red hair is not here. If the red-haired one dares to stop him, he'll do it together. Lu Bulletin wouldn't even hesitate to kill his adoptive father, so what's wrong with him beating his uncle? Can he be worse than Lu Bulletin? Xia Chen said calmly, "Since you sincerely regret, then I won't care about it." Bye, Captain Buggy. After saying that, Xia Chen's figure disappeared instantly. After Xia Chen left, Buggy couldn't help but fall to the ground, breathing heavily. Fortunately, he reacted quickly and understood that those who understand current affairs are heroes, otherwise he might have to explain it here. "The pirates in front of you, please just surrender and capture me." The sudden sound made Buggy feel anxious again, and he couldn't help but turn his head to look. But when he saw that the place where the sound came from was only a female marine wearing glasses and a group of marine minions behind her, anger suddenly surged into his heart. "Damn you, you all treat Captain Buggy like a soft persimmon, right? Xia Chen is so cowardly because of his strength, why are you? Is it because of your passion?" A look of ferocity flashed across Buggy's face, and he stood up and looked at Dashki fiercely. He smiled evilly and said, "Little girl, you are so brave, you dare to come to me for trouble. Split into pieces." Buggy decomposed in an instant, and flew towards Dashki with several cold blades in his hands and feet. Dashki looked at the attacks around him with a solemn expression, pulled out Shijir from his waist, and neutralized the attacks around him one by one. But Buggy's attacks continued, and gradually she couldn't keep up with the rhythm of the attacks, and her whole body began to be slowly put in a dangerous situation. Suddenly, a small knife appeared in front of her. By the time she reacted, she had no time to resist. She could only watch the small knife rushing towards her, with a trace of despair in her eyes. Looking at the approaching knife, Buggy laughed and said, "Die, marine girl." But the next moment, his smile froze on his face, because his arm was wrapped in a burst of white smoke and could not move any further. At the same time, Smoker was walking slowly from a distance. The moment he saw Smoker, Buggy's face turned ugly. It's true that he is low in strength, but he has a lot of knowledge. Logia's devil fruit users like Smoker are completely invincible to people like them who have not mastered Haki. Thoughts ran through his mind for a short time before Buggy shouted towards the back, "Boys, Marine Colonel Smoker is here, we FK him." A group of pirate boys behind them shouted, with excitement in their eyes. Full of momentum. On the contrary, Buggy was stunned by the sudden shout. "No, don't interpret it randomly, that's not what I meant." But looking at the eyes of the pirate boys behind him, Buggy suddenly felt that he was indeed a bit useless by leaving like this, and if word spread, it would damage his dignity as Captain Buggy. In this case, Buggy turned his head and looked at Smoker, his eyes gradually became fierce, and then shouted, "Smoker, green mountains will not change, green water will always flow. 30 years in Hedong and 30 years in Hexi, don't bully the middle-aged and poor. If Mr. Japan lets you off the hook today, he will PS you off tomorrow. Little ones, the wind is blowing hard, I'll take the first step." After saying that, Buggy started his buggy tank form and ran behind him at a high speed. Everyone, _OMG. Chapter 42. All the pirate boys were stunned on the spot. "Our general has already escaped before the battle begins. What should we do? Quick, run!" As the voice of a pirate in the crowd came out, it suddenly seemed like some mechanism had been triggered. All the pirates began to rush towards the direction where Buggy was escaping, joining the mighty fleeing army. "We can't let them escape!" Dashki yelled. Plop! The sound of an object falling to the ground drew her attention. Then his face was instantly filled with panic. At this time, Smoker fell directly to the ground and couldn't help spitting out a mouthful of blood. Dashki stepped forward quickly. "Colonel, what's wrong with you?" "No. It's okay." Smoker struggled to sit up and waved his hands. "There's no need to chase these pirates. With my current situation, I'm afraid I won't be able to fight anymore. I just managed to hold on for a while to scare them away, which is already the limit." After speaking, Smoker couldn't help coughing a few more times, but no blood came out again. "Colonel, who hurt you like this?" Smoker may have thought of something after hearing Dashki's words. A trace of fear flashed in his eyes, and then he said word by word, "Demon King Xia Chen." "Demon King Xia Chen? Is he also on this island?" Dashki couldn't help but asked in confusion. But in a blink of an eye, she thought of the Roronoa she just met. Zoro is a member of the Straw Hat Pirates, and so is the Demon King Xia Chen. It is not surprising here. Smoker didn't answer, but fell into deep thought. Demon King Xia Chen was much more powerful than he thought, and he lost his fighting power with just one move. Thinking of this, Smoker had the urge to scold Marine. "Who set the bounty? This is definitely not the kind of strength that a bounty of 300 million can have, right? But it's useless to say this now. This time they Marine were defeated." Then Smoker turned to look at a figure on the house next door and said, "Thanks, Dragon." He was able to return to Rog Town so quickly because of the help of the dragon. Otherwise, it would have taken him a month and a half to return with his seriously injured body. Long laughed lightly. "You're welcome." Then the figure disappeared instantly. Smoker turned to look at the surrounding Marines and said, "Prepare the ship, let's go to the Grand Waterway." "Hey? But Rog Town is the territory under your jurisdiction, and your injury." Before Dashki could finish her words, Smoker interrupted her with a wave of his hand. "No need to say more. I will submit an application to the headquarters for the general in Rog Town. As for my injuries, I can still recover at sea." After speaking, Smoker looked at the direction Xia Chen left. He murmured, "I must catch you, Demon King Xia Chen." In the sea not far from Rog Town, on the Melee Zoro, Sanji, and Usopp were currently strangling Luffy's neck, their eyes full of anger. "Luffy, do you want to die? Fly over and knock us from the town into the boat. If we weren't so lucky, we would have died countless times." Sanji roared from the side. The three of them were running along the streets of Rog Town just now, when an unknown object flew straight towards them. Under normal circumstances, they can definitely avoid the attack of this unknown object, but if this unknown object is a rubber man who has eaten a rubber fruit, how should they deal with it? So Luffy was very kind and helped them. He stretched out his hands to hold them all together and let them quickly return to the ship. The problem is that they are not rubber figures, but living flesh and blood. Will they hurt? Okay. Hence the present scene of friendly partnership between crew and captain. Xia Chen sat aside and watched this scene leisurely, drinking coffee from who knows where. This life is a pleasure. A few days later Nami was wearing a raincoat and looking towards the distant sea in the storm. "We are finally approaching the Grand Passage. It's just that the chart is strange. There is a mountain blocking our way. It seems we have to go through the mountain." "Hey? Idiot! What are you talking about? How can a boat climb a mountain?" Zoro replied unceremoniously from the side. "But that's how the sea chart is drawn." Nami retorted without any sign of weakness, but her confidence was a bit lacking. "It does seem a bit unrealistic that a boat can climb mountains." Bang! Zoro sneered disdainfully again, but before he could speak, a pair of hands grabbed his neck. "A hole. Miss Nami must be right, how can you question her?" Sanji said angrily. "M9. You damn curly cook, what are you doing? Stinky green algae head, you are not allowed to say anything wrong with Ms. Nami." Damn it, Zoro couldn't stand it anymore and started FG Sanji directly. Xia Chen on the side picked up the coffee in his hand and took an elegant sip and then said lightly, "Entering the Great Channel does require climbing a mountain." I don't know when Xia Chen discovered that he had a hobby of drinking coffee. He would take a sip from time to time. It felt really refreshing. The entrance to the Great Channel is on the upside-down mountain in the Red Continent. There is a canal there. Due to the sea currents, there will be a strange scene of the sea currents climbing up the mountain. You will be found dead. After hearing Xia Chen's words, Nami understood instantly and showed an expression like this. But the next second she looked at Xia Chen doubtfully. Why do you know this? Gilu. Xia Chen took another sip of coffee and said with a calm expression on his face, these are basic common sense. Nami. Do you mean to say that I, a navigator, have no knowledge? However, Nami felt that Xia Chen was becoming more and more mysterious at this time. It was also the same when sailing. Xia Chen knew most of the problems very well, and it felt like there was nothing he didn't know. If Xia Chen knew what Nami was thinking now, he would definitely say confidently, you think I watch anime for nothing. At this moment, the ship began to shake, and at the same time, Usopp's voice came over. Nami, the ship is out of control. Hey! Nami was stunned for a moment after hearing Usopp's words, and then hurried to the railing to observe the sea currents under the boat. After a few seconds, Nami shouted loudly, don't worry, just let the boat follow the current. We can't control the boat in such a strong current. If nothing goes wrong with this current, it should take us towards the canal. A confident smile appeared on Nami's face. As long as she knew the principles, there would be no maritime problems that she couldn't solve. After all, she wanted to become the best navigator. Chapter 43. Nami, I saw the Red Earth continent. Luffy's excited voice came from above the main pole. Hey? Let me see. Nami immediately picked up the telescope and looked into the distance, only to see an extremely huge red mountain appearing in front of her eyes. At this time, Xia Chen also saw the Red Earth continent clearly with his extremely strong strength. Suddenly, Xia Chen's mouth was so big that it seemed like an egg could fit in it. No, he had thought that the Red Earth continent would be huge, but he never thought it would be so big. I can only say that there is a huge difference between what you see in the anime and what you see in reality. The shock is definitely not something you can experience by watching anime. As the distance got closer, everyone saw clearly what the Red Earth continent looked like, and then they all had the same shocked expression on their faces. But the next moment they panicked. Nami, it seems we are going to collide. Usopp yelled in horror. What? Nami instantly picked up the telescope and observed it, and found that the ship was indeed rushing towards the Red Earth continent at a high speed. And due to the influence of sea currents, they now have no ability to control the ship at all. Instantly, a drop of cold sweat flowed from Nami's forehead. Could it be that the chart is wrong? It's impossible. The expression on Nami's face became anxious, and now she didn't know what to do in this situation. At this moment, Xia Chen's voice came from the side, which relieved Nami's tense heart. Don't worry. Just follow the current. Nami turned to look at Xia Chen, not doubting the accuracy of what he said, because she knew that Xia Chen had always been a person who made people feel safe. But you still have to ask, as this can increase her sailing experience. Why is it okay to just follow the current? Look, there is a crack in the Red Earth continent in the direction we are heading, and that's where the canal is. So the current is not taking us toward the wall, but toward the canal. Hey! After hearing Xia Chen's words, Nami turned her head and looked at that place, and sure enough she found a crack. I can't help but admire Xia Chen even more. With Xia Chen here, it's safe, unlike. Nami looked at the other 4 people on the boat, each with a confused expression on their face. These 4 trash. The sea water is really climbing up the mountain. Zoro looked ahead with a telescope and shouted in shock. He felt a little pain in his face now. Just now he was swearing about how the sea water could climb the mountain, but now in the blink of an eye this scene appeared in front of his eyes. It's actually a bit. But you can't blame him. Who in the right mind would think that sea water can climb mountains? Oh, you're a third-rate swordsman with no knowledge. He's like a local dog, so disgraceful. Xia Chen said disdainfully from the side. I don't know why, Xia Chen wanted to laugh at Zoro when he saw him looking like a local dog, although Xia Chen himself almost had his eyes popping out when he saw the water flowing back. But he didn't show it, he was shocked in his heart. As long as he doesn't show it, no one will know that he is also a local dog. One thing to say is that although Xia Chen already knew about the existence of this situation in advance, he was still shocked when he saw it. He and Zoro actually have similar thoughts. They also think that climbing mountains with sea water is really ridiculous, but many times this kind of thing just exists. It seems that he still hasn't fully adapted to the unreasonableness of the One Piece world. He needs to exercise more in the future, otherwise, he won't be a BCH when he goes to Sky Island. You idiot, what qualifications do you have to criticize me? Zoro said unconvinced. M9. Xia Chen's figure disappeared instantly, and the next second his whole face was close to Zoro's. Third-rate swordsman, look directly at me. My skin is at least a few degrees paler than yours. Who are you to see that I'm dark? The Wuda that Zoro was talking about was actually taught to him by Xia Chen. In his previous life, Wuda in his hometown meant NR. Once when Usopp was making explosives, he accidentally blew himself up, and then his whole face turned black, so Xia Chen said Usopp at that time. Unexpectedly, Zoro had learned it secretly and used it on him. It's against Tian Gang, right? You drink black coffee every day, what else is it if you don't drink black coffee? Zoro was startled by Xia Chen who suddenly appeared in front of him, but he still said firmly. Xia Chen was immediately confused. What I drank had something to do with me. Is it so outrageous? In this case. Bang 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 bang. After a while, Xia Chen clapped his hands with satisfaction and walked towards the bow of the ship, while Zoro looked at Xia Chen's back from behind and gritted his teeth. When Lao Zi becomes stronger, you will be the first to be killed. As soon as he arrived at the bow of the ship, Xia Chen noticed that Nami's face was solemn, and couldn't help but curiously asked, "What's wrong?" Nami pointed forward with his finger and said, "This current can indeed take us to the canal, but now the course is a little off. If we continue to follow this trend, the melee will definitely hit the pillar next to it, and we will be dead by then." "Oh, I thought it was a big deal, but it turns out this is it." "Oh Omega?" Nami looked confused. "Isn't it a big deal that affects the lives of everyone on the ship?" Xia Chen gave Nami a reassuring look, then looked at Luffy and said, "Luffy, quickly turn into a balloon and go to the door to cushion it." "Luffy? Why should I go?" "Because you can do it. After all, you are the captain of our pirate group, and you must be the most capable one. Only you can handle such a difficult task." Xia Chen made a fuss about Luffy, and Luffy was frightened for a moment. Then the simple-minded man said happily, "Ha ha ha, I really have to do it." 10 seconds later, when the ship approached the door frame, Xia Chen shouted, "Luffy, come on. I am coming." After saying that, Luffy jumped directly to the front door, opened his mouth and a large mouthful of air was sucked into his stomach. In an instant, Luffy's body swelled into a big balloon. At the same time, the Mary also crashed towards the door. Boom! The hull of the ship suddenly leaned against Luffy's belly, and Luffy's face instantly turned red. Xia Chen looked at this scene and nodded with satisfaction. Not to mention, sometimes Luffy is quite useful. With Luffy's buffer, the Mary returned to the right direction, heading straight towards the top of the mountain under the leadership of the ocean current. After playing a great role, Luffy stretched out and returned to the ship. Although he was a little tired, his eyes looked ahead full of excitement. "The Great Channel, here I come." Chapter 44. "Aho!" Luffy shouted excitedly. The rest of the people also had expectant smiles on their faces. As long as they climb over this mountain, they can enter the Great Channel. The melee kept rushing upwards driven by the current, and it didn't take long to reach the top of the mountain. Then after a short flight it fell into the canal downstream. When going down, the speed is faster than the previous uphill climb, and the splash is bigger. So it's more exciting. Woo! Suddenly, a strange sound came. Xia Chen couldn't help but look up and looked ahead. He murmured, "Laboon." Apart from Xia Chen, Zoro was the only one on the ship who noticed the sound. He couldn't help but curiously asked the people around him, "Did you hear any sounds?" "It must be the wind." Nami replied confidently. Now she is an experienced navigator and cannot make a fuss about any situation at sea. Otherwise, wouldn't it be embarrassing? Although the sound is indeed a bit strange, it is the Great Channel after all, the most incredible sea area in the world, so a strange wind sound is normal. "Is it possible that it's the sound of a whale?" Xia Chen said with a half-smile. "Xia Chen, what are you talking about? How can the sound of a whale be so loud? If it is really the sound of a whale, how loud is this whale?" Before Sanji finished speaking, he saw a black mountain in front of him. When he got closer, he realized that it was not a mountain, but a huge whale. Ah! Everyone on the boat was frightened and panicked. How could there be such a big whale? This is a kind of island whale from West Blue. It can grow to the size of the entire island, so this size is normal. You'll be found dead. Everyone stood on the spot and clapped their hands together. But in a blink of an eye. No, Xia Chen, the problem now is not to calmly say what kind of whale this is, we are going to hit it. Okay, okay. I have a way. Xia Chen said lightly. Star. Omega. What can I do? Everyone asked in unison. The solution is. Xia Chen jumped on the goat's head and slashed forward with his right foot. Lanjiao. A slash flew out and hit Laboon's body. Mu Laboon couldn't help but neigh in pain, then opened his mouth and sucked in all the sea water around him. Of course, Xia Chen and his ship were not immune. Then the entire ship entered Laboon's belly. Oh, Sigma, death penalty. According to you, the so-called way to avoid crashing is to let us be swallowed. Just tell me if you bumped into me, Xia Chen said, spreading his hands. It's true that I didn't roar, but we're going to be eaten. Isn't this more serious than a collision? Luffy and the others strangled Xia Chen's neck, shook him and shouted. You guys, are looking for a fight, right? Bang 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 bang. Hey, people nowadays are not allowed to speak out if they do something wrong. Luffy said mockingly with his face covered in bruises and red spots. That is, the wrong person dares to hit someone first. What do you think is the reason? The world is deteriorating, and people's hearts are not as old as they used to be. Zoro and Sanji also spoke one after another. After hearing this, Xia Chen's fist felt itchy again for some reason. But after thinking about it, I decided to forget it. It's no fun to bully these weaklings all the time. Xia Chen said calmly, since I dare to be swallowed by a whale like this, it proves that it is absolutely fine. You guys, don't be so jabbering, just wait and see and it will be fine. A few minutes later, after a period of spinning, the Melly landed steadily on a green ocean. The blue sky, the white clouds, the flying birds. Everyone was stunned for a moment. Didn't we get swallowed by a whale? What is this? Nami asked, stammering. We are indeed in the belly of the whale now. At some point a cup of coffee appeared in Xia Chen's hand, and he said lightly after taking a sip. Indeed, look, these white clouds and birds don't move. They are all painted on them. Usopp also pointed to the sky and said. So, the ocean below is stomach acid. Sanji's face changed drastically. That's right. Who are you? Just when everyone was still wondering why the whale's belly was like this, an old voice sounded in their ears. After hearing this, everyone's eyes turned towards the direction of the sound. Wow! A chrysanthemum is coming towards us. Luffy shouted in horror. Humph! What a chrysanthemum, so rude. Chrysanthemums can still talk. Luffy became even more frightened. Idiot, that's obviously a person. Zoro said speechlessly, but he was also a little confused. Why is there an island in the belly of a whale? Thinking like this, Zoro couldn't help but ask him, Old man, who are you? Why are you in the belly of the whale? Shouldn't you tell someone who you are before you ask someone? That's right. I am Roronoa. I am Kurika's, the lighthouse keeper of Gemini Point. I am 71 years old, my zodiac sign is Gemini, and my blood type is Ib. Clang. Hideo came out of his sheath. Don't stop me, Lao Zi is going to chop him. Calm down, calm down. Sanji pulled hard at the side. You want to take action? I advise you not to do it, because it will kill people. Kurika said quietly with a cold light in his eyes. Hey! Everyone's expressions froze when they heard this. Staring at the old man in front of him. Sanji took a puff from the cigarette in his mouth. While blowing out smoke rings, he said, let's see who will die. He didn't believe that an old man in his 70s could have any fighting ability. What nonsense are you talking about? Isn't it obvious who will die? Of course it's me. Kurika said confidently. It turns out it's you. By the way, what are you doing here? You probably want to do harm to this whale, right? When he said this, Kurika stared at the people opposite him. Of course not, we were just accidentally eaten by Laboon. Xia Chen stood on the bow of the boat and said. Oh, I see. Kurika's nodded. But suddenly he seemed to realize something. He looked at Xia Chen in horror and asked word by word, why do you know the name of this whale? A mysterious smile appeared on Xia Chen's face. This. Chapter 45. Secret. After hearing this, Kurikas took a deep look at Xia Chen, but in the end he did not continue to delve deeper into this topic. Instead, he said, since you don't have any ill intentions, if you want to go out, you can go out through the iron gate. Kurikas pointed to an iron door nearby and said. Hey! There is a door in the whale's belly. Luffy's eyes widened. By the way, are these paintings all painted by you, old man? Usopp also asked. Yes. This is just a little hobby in my spare time as a doctor. Doctor. Luffy's eyes instantly lit up when he heard this word. He said happily, Old man Dewa, please come on my ship and be my ship's doctor. Idiot, what are you talking about? Do you think my 71-year-old body can still join you in your mischief? I may die in the middle of the road. Ah, that's it. That's such a pity. Okay, no more words, the door is over there, I will take you out. As soon as Kurikas stood up, the entire sea of stomach acid began to shake. Seeing this situation, his eyes narrowed and he immediately jumped into the sea of stomach acid. Old chrysanthemum! Luffy shouted. Won't he be corroded by stomach acid? Sanji said with a cold sweat on his face. Xia Chen said, no, as a doctor, he is very familiar with his own constitution, so there is no need to worry about this problem. Immediately afterwards, everyone saw Kurikas emerge from somewhere, then climbed onto the platform he built and gave Laboon a shot of tranquilizer. Not long after the sedative was administered, everyone noticed that the sea of stomach acid that had been shaking began to slowly calm down. Eventually it returned to its previous calm state. What is going on? Nami asked in horror. Laboon is hitting the red continent. Hey! Kurikas, who swam back after hearing Xia Chen's words, immediately turned his head and stared at him. Ask that sentence again. How do you know this? I told you, old man, this is a secret. I'm actually just an ordinary person who knows a lot of things. For example, I also know certain things about you. The doctor on board One Piece Roger.Mr. Kurikas. When Xia Chen said these words, not only Kurikas was shocked, but even his companions behind him were also turned to stone one by one. Then they all shouted loudly, Ship Doctor of One Piece. Kurikas once again took a deep look at Xia Chen, as if he wanted to see through him. Xia Chen responded with a faint smile and looked at him as well. After a long time, Kurikas said slowly, Young man, you do know a lot of things. But I can see that there is no malice in your eyes. In that case, I won't ask so many questions. Because you know I won't tell you even if you ask, it's better not to ask, Xia Chen replied lightly. Kurikas. Do young people dare to save a little more face for me? At this time, everyone finally recovered from the news that Kurikas was the One Piece ship's doctor. Luffy directly asked excitedly, Old man Daisy, did you find the One Pieces? Yes. That's right. Kurikas nodded. Do you want me to tell you what's there? Kurikas teased. No. Luffy firmly refused. I will eventually become One Piece with my own abilities and find One Pieces. Seeing the determination on Luffy's face, Kurikas was also infected for a moment, as if he had seen a man who said this with great enthusiasm many years ago. After he came to his senses, a smile appeared on his lips. Boy, being One Piece is not that easy. Even if it is very likely to cost you your life, don't you regret it? I don't care, I will be One Piece. Kurikas looked at Luffy steadily. After a long time, ha ha ha. Then I wish you good luck. Kurikas wanted to say something else, but suddenly the voices of a man and a woman came from above. Old man, suffer death. As soon as Kurikas turned his head, he found a cannonball flying towards him, and he couldn't help but shed a few drops of cold sweat. Xia Chen narrowed his eyes slightly, and with a few flicks of his fingers, he flew out with a few tiny slashes. Bang! The cannonball exploded directly in the air, and then Xia Chen turned his attention to the two people above. One is a girl with blue hair and a ponytail, and the other is a man wearing a crown with nines painted on both sides of his cheeks. Mr. Nine, Miss Wednesday, what are you doing here? The two were just about to fire the second cannonball when they were stunned when they heard Xia Chen's words. How could this person know them? They were very shocked at this moment, but the people behind them were even more shocked. Although I knew Xia Chen knew a lot of things before, how did I find out recently that he knew more things? He knew everything he asked. The key is that he knows the two people who appeared out of nowhere. This is a bit outrageous. You don't even have enough information about Morgans, do you? Who are you? Why do you know our names? Me? You don't even know me? What do you two do for food? Xia Chen looked angry. This familiar tone, this familiar accent, this familiar expression. The people behind him instantly understood Xia Chen's thoughts. As expected, he will start performing. Mr. 9, Miss was even more confused on Wednesday, and at the same time, there was an inexplicable anger in her heart. No, who are you? Why should we know you? Haha. You two haven't read the messages sent by the club during your recent missions, right? Xia Chen said with a sneer. When they heard this, the two of them were instantly shocked. Indeed, during this period, they were all thinking of ways to kill the whale, so they did not receive any notification from the club at all. Could it be that, the person in front of me is a new cadre in the company? While they were still thinking, Xia Chen's voice came over again. Listen to me, I am Mr. 1, newly appointed by the boss. Do you understand now? Mr. 1? This is so much higher than their level. The strongest person under the boss. Instantly, a trace of fear filled the hearts of the two of them. Sorry, Mr. 1, we did not receive the message before, so we did not recognize you, please forgive me. Mr. 9 bowed quickly and said. On the other hand, Miss Wednesday, who was next to her, did not react immediately, but was thinking about something. After a while, she showed a smile. I said, why don't you pretend to be more like him? There's no way you are Mr. 1. Oh, why do you see it? Xia Chen asked with a smile. Miss Wednesday had a confident smile on her face. Because. Chapter 46. We have met Mr. 1 before. He looks very imposing. You can tell he is a strong man. And you, are so handsome. With fair and tender skin, you don't look like a powerful person. I can only say that you are not good at pretending to be Mr. 1. It's too fake. Miss said firmly on Wednesday. Xia Chen was confused. He had thought of countless reasons for his exposure, but this was the only one he had never thought of. No, the law stipulates that strong people cannot be handsome? What is the truth? Princess, your judgment standards are really special, Xia Chen asked quietly, so you think I'm not strong enough, so I'm not Mr. 1. That's right. In this case. With a swish sound, Xia Chen's figure disappeared instantly. Hey? Where is the person? The two of them were stunned. The person who was in front of them just now, why did he disappear all of a sudden? Before they could find Xia Chen, an arm from behind them patted their shoulders. So, what now? Do you think I have the strength? Degree, it was a voice that sounded as gentle as jade, but at this moment they felt the biting cold wind. Their bodies trembled unconsciously, and then they all turned their heads slowly like robots. Xia Chen, who was still below just now, was now looking at them with a smile. How is it possible? This thought came to both of them at the same time. It was only a second at most before this man disappeared, right? He came up behind them silently, and they were still on a platform dozens of meters high. This kind of subverted their worldview. At this moment, they immediately believed the identity of Mr. 1 Xia Chen. Who else could he be if he was so strong? But at the same time, Miss Wednesday meant that Vivi's already desperate heart became even more desperate. Mr. 1 is so powerful, so how powerful is Crocodile above him? Her eyes dimmed instantly when she thought of this. Can the kingdom of Alabasta be saved? Xia Chen didn't know that his casual display of strength made Vivi think so much, but even if he knew, it didn't matter, just scare her. Okay, as Mr. 1, I order you not to take action against this whale. But. Mr. 9 wanted to say something else, but Xia Chen interrupted him directly. Why, what I said didn't work. No. Don't dare. In that case, you should go to my ship first. May I ask, sir, who is this ship? Did you see the man in the straw hat over there? Xia Chen said, pointing at Luffy who was looking at them stupidly. I saw it, sir. Is there anything wrong with him? His head is worth 25 million belly. Do you think there is any problem? 25 million baileys? Is this the one that looks like a fool? Yes, so you know what to do, right? I know. Let's first trick them into Whiskey Peak and then catch them all, right? Sir. Mr. Nine answered first. Yes, the boy is teachable. Xia Chen looked at him with admiration. So, let's go. After saying that, Xia Chen took them to the melee one by one. As for why he didn't just kick it down? Don't get me wrong. Xia Chen just doesn't want the melee to be damaged. So, you are with them? You all want to kill Laboon? Did you just say that there was no harm? Kurika's asked, staring at Xia Chen. Oh, old man, I'm sorry, I'll explain it to you right away. After saying this, Xia Chen's eyes narrowed, and the powerful conqueror's domineering energy came out of his body. Vivi and Mr. Nine instantly fainted on the boat. Conqueror's haki. Kurika's was really shocked this time. He originally thought that Xia Chen was just a little pirate with some strength, but now it seems that there is a big deviation from what he expected. It was just a little show to trick them. Otherwise, if I really want to harm Laboon, you can't stop me, can you? So I don't have to lie to you. Kurika's was also thinking about this issue at this time, and found that it was indeed as Xia Chen said, if Xia Chen really had any malicious intentions, then with his current strength, there is a high probability that he would not be able to defeat Xia Chen. Thinking of this, Kurika's also believed Xia Chen's words. Those who can awaken Conqueror's domineering energy are born kings, and such people do not bother to lie. No, he just finished deceiving those two idiots. Wow! Old man Huahua, does that mean you have been here for nearly 50 years now? Ah, that's right. But I also went out for a while during the trip, just sailing with Roger and the others. After that, I came back here to stay with Laboon again. But as Laboon got bigger and bigger, I had no choice but to treat it from the inside. So your treatment is to open these water channels in its body? Zoro asked speechlessly. Is it possible that it was killed by you first instead of hitting it by itself? You know what the heck, green algae-headed boy, you are a doctor and I am a doctor? Don't question my medical skills, M9. Chiang. Hideo Yuan was once again unsheathed. Don't stop me, I will kill him no matter what I say this time. So this whale has been waiting here for his partner for 50 years? Luffy asked in an unclear tone. That's right. Because of this agreement, Laboon has always wanted to break away from the Red Earth continent to find them, but with just a whale, how can it cause harm to this continent? Speaking of this, Kurika's couldn't help but sigh. While chatting, after a while, everyone saw an iron gate. As the iron door slowly opened, Xia Chen and the others saw the outside world again. After some time Hasanji slowly exhaled the smoke from his mouth. In 50 years, they will be dead long ago, right? Needless to say, he must be dead. Zoro added. No, in fact, I heard news that they escaped from the Grand Channel, but they forgot their agreement and did not come to take Laboon away. Ah? They forgot the agreement? Luffy said blankly. Are they too bad? They made a promise but didn't keep it. Usopp said angrily beside him. Then uncle, didn't you tell Laboon about this? Why? I told it, but it's a pity that it doesn't want to believe it, and it keeps hitting the Red Earth continent as always. If Laboon keeps doing this, it will die soon. There was a sad look on Kurika's face. At this time, Xia Chen, who was on the sidelines, felt that it would be bad if he didn't say anything. After all, he was the one who knew everything. Just when Xia Chen was about to say something, he caught a glimpse of a sneaky figure from the corner of his eye. Chapter 47. Xia Chen's eyes turned cold, and his figure disappeared instantly. The next second, everyone only saw a black shadow flashing in front of them, and then a huge roar came from the stone wall next to Twin Capes. Everyone immediately turned around and saw Xia Chen standing there steadily. Nami couldn't help but asked curiously, Xia Chen, what was that black shadow just now? Oh, it's Luffy. After saying that, Xia Chen's figure disappeared and sped towards Luffy's direction. Xia Chen stood quietly in front of the rebel pile, looking ahead. After a while, there was a sound from the rebel. Luffy slowly climbed up from it, looked at Xia Chen and asked angrily, Xia Chen, what are you doing? What am I doing? I want to beat you up. After saying that, Xia Chen appeared in front of Luffy, armed and domineering wrapped around his hand, and beat Luffy. Luffy was angry when he was beaten inexplicably at this time, and kept shouting and attacking Xia Chen, but the strength gap between the two was too big, and his attacks had no effect at all, and he could only be beaten passively. After a while, the melee docked at the shore, and Zoro and Sanji quickly ran over and grabbed Xia Chen. Xia Chen, stop fighting. If you keep fighting, Luffy will be beaten to death by you. At this time, Luffy was all in tatters, with scars all over his body, and Xia Chen had spit out countless mouthfuls of blood, making him look miserable. Zoro looked at Xia Chen solemnly. He could tell that Xia Chen was really angry this time, otherwise he wouldn't have dealt with such a heavy hand. But now he is also a little curious as to what Luffy did to make Xia Chen, who has always been good-tempered, angry. Xia Chen took a deep breath and slowly walked to Luffy lying on the ground. Luffy was also staring at him intently at this time. What did you want to do just now? Xia Chen asked lightly, with a chill in his tone. I want to go. You want to fight Laboon, and then use this to make a new agreement with it so that he will not continue to hit the Red Earth continent. Hey! Luffy was a little confused at this time. Why would Xia Chen know what he wanted to do? Now that you know what he wants to do, why do you stop him? And even beat him up? I don't have a problem with you wanting to fight Laboon, but if I hadn't stopped you just now, you would have wanted to remove Mary's main pole, right? Speaking of this, the chill in Xia Chen's tone became even more obvious. He stared at Luffy and shouted angrily, Monkey D. Luffy, what do you think of our ship and the Mary? Xia Chen's voice made everyone around him freeze in place, and no one dared to gasp loudly. Xia Chen is so scary now. This is the first time they have seen Xia Chen like this. Do you think that Mary is not our partner? If you want to fight with your own fists, why are you pulling out Mary's main pole? To be honest, Xia Chen really couldn't stand Luffy's behavior, so he couldn't help but beat him. As a captain, he doesn't care about the ship at all. It can even be said that many of Mary's injuries were caused by Luffy. After listening to Xia Chen's words, Luffy froze on the spot, the anger in his heart disappeared in an instant, and he kept thinking about what Xia Chen just said. After a while, Luffy slowly stood up, looked at Xia Chen and said seriously, Thank you, Xia Chen, you are right, Mary is our partner, I should love it and not harm it. Xia Chen nodded, Luffy's character of correcting his mistakes is still very good. Then what are you doing standing around now? Go make an agreement with Laboon. Oh, good. After that, Luffy ran towards Laboon. Although Xia Chen looked miserable when he beat Luffy just now, the injuries were not serious and had little impact on Luffy's strength. Then Xia Chen turned to look at everyone again. Okay, let's watch the show aside. Sanji, please make some delicious food. Nami wants to eat it. Miss Nami, is it true? Are you hungry? Sanji quickly ran to Nami's side and said enthusiastically. Right. Nami was confused for a moment and then nodded. Next, two different scenes formed on Luffy's side and Xia Chen's side. He was fighting with Laboon there, while the others were enjoying the food, chatting, and occasionally commenting on Luffy's battles from time to time. After some time the battle between Luffy and Laboon finally stopped, but according to Luffy's words, the battle between them was not over, and they made a promise to continue the battle after he sailed the Grand Channel for a circle. Hey! You guys are so unjust, you actually eat secretly. Luffy, who had just finished the battle, came over and saw everyone's situation and couldn't help complaining. Which of your eyes saw us eating secretly? Aren't we just sitting here eating openly? Xia Chen asked doubtfully. Luffy thought for a moment with his dim head, and then said, it seems to make sense. After saying that, Luffy also ran over, picked up the food and stuffed it into his mouth. Just now, he was beaten first by Xia Chen and then by Laboon. Now he is almost starving to death. Midway, Kurika's looked at Luffy and asked, Straw Hat Boy, can you abide by the agreement between you and Laboon? Will it be like the previous pirate group? No. Luffy said firmly. Then he added with a smile. Unless I die. Is this so? Kurika's was thinking on the spot. At this time, Xia Chen on the side took a sip of coffee and said calmly, Old man, it's not that the Lombard pirates didn't abide by the agreement, but because they are all dead. How do you know the name of that pirate group? Kurika's was surprised again. I said before, I know a little bit more than 100 million things, so it's normal to know that this pirate group is called the Lumba Pirates, right? Well, when you say that, you are really a normal bird egg. Kurika stared at Xia Chen with wide eyes, and even stood up and circled around him a few times. Xia Chen now seemed to him to be exuding a mysterious aura. He obviously looks like a big kid, but he didn't expect to know so many things. Xia Chen slowly took a sip of coffee again. Calm down, old man, don't leave, you're making me dizzy. Well. Kurika's sat back down, not struggling with why Xia Chen knew so much about this matter, but followed the question just now and said, why did you say they are all dead? Because. Chapter 48. Mr. 1. Before Xia Chen could say anything, he heard a sound coming from the melee and couldn't help but turn his gaze. I saw that Mr. 9 and Vivi were already awake and were shouting and waving to him. Sorry, wait for me. After saying that, Conqueror's domineering energy came out of his body again and charged towards the two people on the Mary. Then the two fell down again just like before. Unfortunately, they both fell into a coma not long after they woke up. You. Conqueror's domineering power is really used casually. Kurika's looked a little embarrassed. Why does it feel like a cannon hitting mosquitoes? No way, this is the most time-saving and labor-saving way. Xia Chen spread his hands. Okay, let's continue the topic we just talked about. All the Lumba pirates were buried in a certain sea area. That's why they didn't come back. It's not that they broke their promise. I don't know where you got your information, old man, but it's wrong. That's it. Kurika's did not doubt the authenticity of what Xia Chen said. Judging from what Xia Chen has shown during this period, he knows far more than he knows himself. So since Xia Chen said it was wrong, then it is no accident that he did get the wrong news. By the way, old man, do you still remember Brook? Of course, our relationship at that time was pretty good. He's not dead. What? Are you telling the truth? Kurika stood up excitedly. It is indeed true, but his current situation is a bit complicated. He can be said to be dead or alive. Oh. How do you describe it? Kurika's was immediately stunned. Both dead and alive? So abstract? Kurika's couldn't understand what Xia Chen said, and everyone behind him couldn't understand it either. Not to mention now, even when Xia Chen talked about the Lumba pirates before, they were a bit out of touch. At the same time, the same thought popped up in my mind. Why do you know so much when you are in the same boat? However, adhering to the principle of not interrupting if you don't know something, they all ate quietly in the back. Xia Chen continued, Brook did die in a battle, but he ate the underworld fruit, so his body is indeed dead, but his soul is alive. And his current identity is that of a living skeleton. A living skeleton. That sounds so interesting. Luffy said with eyes shining. Indeed. I have never seen a living skeleton like this in my life. I wonder if the bones will break if I cut them with a knife. What will it taste like when using these bones as food? You are devils. Nami and Usopp couldn't help shouting after hearing what Luffy and the other three said. Who are these people? A living skeleton, this thing sounds scary, okay? Ha ha ha. It's really interesting. I wonder if I will have a chance to meet it in the future, Luffy said with anticipation. Xia Chen smiled and said nothing. After a while, Kurika's finally accepted the fact and smiled. That guy. Ha ha ha. After laughing for a while, Kurika's looked at Xia Chen and said, thank you for bringing me this news. Hey, uncle, what are you talking about? If you really want to thank you, just give us your record pointer. We don't have a record pointer yet. Ha ha ha, of course no problem. Record pointer? What is that? Nami asked curiously. It is a pointer used to guide the direction in the Great Channel. Xia Chen said lightly. Hey? Can't a compass work? Look at your compass now. What's so good about this compass? Ah. Why does the compass needle keep spinning? Nami asked in horror. Because the magnetism of the Great Channel is very confusing, and all the weather conditions here are untrustworthy, including white clouds, ocean currents, and wind directions. The only thing that can be trusted is the direction pointed by the recording needle. In the Great Channel, each island is connected by magnetic force, so every time we go to an island, we need to stay on the island for a while, waiting for the recording pointer to record the magnetic force of the island. This time can be long or short. Some can only be recorded in a few days, and some can only be recorded in a few hours. After the recording is completed, he will point in the direction of the next island. Xia Chen talked a lot about record pointers in one breath. He was a little thirsty, so he picked up the coffee next to him and took a comfortable sip. You are really knowledgeable, Mr. Xia Chen. Of course. Xia Chen replied subconsciously. But suddenly he seemed to react to something. Just as he was about to turn his head received a heavy blow. Ah, it hurts. Xia Chen covered his head and wailed. Looking at Nami's cloudy face, she said tremblingly, What's wrong? Why didn't you tell me this earlier? You didn't even ask. Xia Chen felt a little aggrieved. He knew a lot of things, so he must only talk about it when encountering special situations. Otherwise, why would he talk so much when he had nothing to do? But he didn't dare to say these words. Nami's punch just now. It hurts. Xia Chen seriously doubted that Nami was the first person in the Straw Hats to master Ba Tang. This power is quite powerful. Kurika's took out the record pointer and handed it to Nami, giving Nami a burst of joy. I don't know if it's the nature of a navigator, but I feel happy when I see this kind of pointer. Kurika said, there are 7 lines in the Great Channel. Which one are you going to choose? This is the Whiskey Mountain Peak. Xia Chen said lightly. What's the difference between these 7 items? Nami asked curiously. What's the difference? The islands you pass are different. Nami's anger rose again when she went down. If it weren't for the fact that Kurika's was an old man, she would have asked him to try what is called One Punch Man. Kurika's was a little confused when he saw Nami's changing expression. He wasn't wrong either. It seems that this little girl has a bad temper, hey. No wonder every one of the crew members on their ship was beaten hard by her. Returning to the topic, Kurika's continued, no matter which route you choose, the final destination is the final island, Lavdru. So if you are determined to become One Piece, you can choose any one. Then why choose Whiskey Peak? Nami turned to look at Xia Chen. Because this route is more interesting. Xia Chen replied. More interesting? Luffy's eyes lit up again when he heard this, and he said loudly, okay. Then let's decide to go to Whiskey Peak. Hearing this, Nami couldn't help but raise her forehead. Why does she always feel like nothing good is happening? Chapter 49. Half a day later. Goodbye, Old Man Daisy. Luffy stood on the melee and waved to Kurika's on the shore and shouted. Then he looked at Laboon. Laboon, wait until I travel around the world for a week before I come to you. Before that, you must not knock off the painting on your head. Laboon responded with a reluctant voice. Gradually, the Mary slowly moved away with one person and one whale watching. Kurika's looked at the Mary in the distance and murmured, Roger, I saw someone like you again. It seems that the world will not be peaceful in the future. Half a day later, we boarded the Mary. At this time, there was a lot of snow on the boat. Why is the weather in this great waterway like this? It was sunny and windy just now, but in the blink of an eye it started to snow heavily. Nami said, shivering while wrapped in a sweater. Then she looked down and saw that Usopp and Luffy were competing to build a snowman. In the end, Usopp must have won. The snowman he built was much better than Luffy's. Even Xia Chen on the side couldn't help but praise Usopp's snowman when he saw it, it was really good. Then Xia Chen picked up the coffee and took a sip. Not to mention, drinking a warm cup of coffee in this weather is so comfortable. Then his eyes turned to the 2 people above. Hey, you 2. Come over here and shovel the snow. Why are you standing there? Ah? Mr. 1, do we also have to work? Nonsense, you don't have to work, why should I drive you to Whiskey Peak? Hurry up. Mr. 9 wanted to say something else, but finally shut up at the signal from Vivi next to him, and the 2 of them started shoveling the snow honestly. Seeing the 2 of them looking like this, a smile appeared on Xia Chen's lips. It seems like I can no longer act on my identity. Xia Chen, there is a huge iceberg ahead, what should I do? While Xia Chen was still thinking, Sanji's voice came from the bow of the boat. Xia Chen slowly stood up and walked slowly towards the bow of the ship. Then he jumped and landed on the head of the goat in front. Looking at the huge iceberg in front of him, he said slowly, hey, if you encounter a situation like this during navigation, it can be easily solved. Watch my demonstration. After saying that, Xia Chen raised his leg slightly, and then his right leg swung past him like a sharp blade in the wind. A huge slash shot out, speeding towards the iceberg ahead. The slash cut across the iceberg quickly without making any sound. After a few breaths, the iceberg began to crack from the middle and collapsed toward both sides. The cut place in the middle was as smooth as a mirror. Done, call it a day. Xia Chen returned to the original stool, slowly picked up the coffee and took a sip. Comfortable. Xia Chen's face was calm, but the other's eyes widened at this time. Oh, what a huge iceberg! Why did it disappear all of a sudden? Are you sure we can learn from this demonstration? Do you think so highly of us? Zoro's eyes were shining brightly. After all, he was the only one who could unleash the slashing attack in the future. The other people's attack methods were not slashing. Vivi and Mr. 9's feet were trembling constantly at this time. Is this kind of strength against natural disasters really something that humans can possess? Hey, what are you two doing in a daze? Don't be lazy. Xia Chen stared at the two of them. Yes. One day later, an island covered with huge cacti appeared in front of the melee. This was the destination of Xia Chen and the others, Whiskey Peak. Looks like I can enjoy some delicious food tonight. A smile appeared on Xia Chen's lips. But until then. Xia Chen, why did you tie those two people up with ropes and put them in the cabin? Luffy asked curiously, and the others looked at him with the same doubtful eyes. You will know tomorrow. A meaningful smile appeared on Xia Chen's face. But his attention was focused on the voice that just sounded in his head. Ding, check into Whiskey Peak Island successfully and get Somersault Cloud. Somersault Cloud. A look of surprise appeared on Xia Chen's face. This was the first time he encountered something that did not improve his strength. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but look at the attributes of the Somersault Cloud. Somersault Cloud, Golden Cloud, the fastest speed can reach 100 km/s, all interpretation rights belong to the system, Although Xia Chen didn't know how fast a somersault was, it shouldn't be such a number that has zeros and holes. No wonder it is necessary to add a statement at the end that the right of interpretation belongs to the system. It turns out that this somersault cloud is unauthentic. But Xia Chen was too lazy to care about this. 100 km/s is enough for him, okay? Even Kizaru is not necessarily that fast. Although Kizaru is said to be a shining fruit, his speed definitely does not reach the speed of light. Otherwise, what would happen to others? Who can react at a speed of 300,000 km/s? Xia Chen is quite satisfied with this reward. Although it does not improve his strength, it doesn't matter. His current strength can already deal with most situations. Instead, this somersault cloud now gave him the urge to play, but he restrained it for the time being. If you accidentally stray too far, it will be funny if you can't find your way back later. It seems that in the future he will collect one more thing besides treasure. Permanent record pointer. As long as there is a permanent recording pointer, Xia Chen can travel between all islands in the world. And it's extremely fast, it doesn't take long at all. After closing the system panel, Xia Chen turned his gaze to the surrounding dense fog. Under his domineering perception, he knew everything around him. But he didn't intend to ruin the development of the plot, otherwise he wouldn't have to tie up Vivi and the others. Isn't it good to have a big meal for free? And if nothing else happens, he can see a good show tonight, which is what he is most interested in. Thinking of this, Xia Chen looked around quietly, waiting for the development of things. As the fog gradually dissipated, the surrounding scenery was revealed. Oh, welcome, welcome. I saw countless people surrounding their boat, making a very welcoming appearance. Oh. Do everyone here welcome pirates? Luffy said with a happy smile on his face. Usopp also kept spitting out love. So pirates are so popular here. Pretty girl. Sanji watched the women greeting him from the shore twisting and turning. Except for Xia Chen, only Zoro and Nami looked at this scene a little confused. They seemed unfazed on the surface, but they were wary in their hearts. When the boat stopped, everyone got off the boat. At this time, an old man with long curly hair walked towards them. Chapter 50. As soon as he arrived in front of Luffy and others, he said enthusiastically, "Hello, distinguished guests from afar. I am the mayor of Whiskey Mountain, my name, ahem. Boom. Call a Garaboy. Old man, your hair is so curly." Luffy said excitedly, pointing to his hair. "Haha, don't worry about those insignificant things, Whiskey Peak is a town that is dedicated to hospitality. It's our mission to treat our guests with hospitality, so can we throw a party for you?" "Of course." Luffy, Usopp, and Sanji said happily together. Nami couldn't help but be speechless looking at these three people. How dare you hold a party without knowing anything about the situation? She always felt that there must be something wrong with this, but she was not worried. With Xia Chen here, she could handle it no matter what happened. This was his trust in Xia Chen. In this case, let's see what tricks these people want to play. At night, in a tavern on Whiskey Mountain. These things are so delicious. I want more. Luffy said inarticulately as he stuffed food into his mouth. I was fighting with the whale and knocked it down with one punch. A group of people heard Usopp's words and made a sound of shock. Beautiful lady, hee hee. Sanji lay on the bodies of several beauties and rubbed them happily. On the other side, Zoro, Nami, and Xia Chen were all sitting here drinking. The mayor looked at Nami and said, Madam, we are going to hold a drinking competition. What do you think? Do you want to participate? These wines are very delicious. Well, forget it, I don't like drinking very much. Nami waved his hand. The winner gets a bonus of 100,000 belly. Please let me participate. After saying that, Nami looked at Xia Chen and Zoro and said, Hey, you two are joining too. Okay. Xia Chen nodded. If he doesn't participate, this group of people will not be relieved later. But it's also because his wine tastes really good. It seems that he can save hundreds of millions of points to the system space later. After some time when he drank the 8th cup, Xia Chen took the lead and pretended to be unable to hold on anymore and fell down on the table. It's not because of any other reason, it's mainly because I'm a little full from the drink. Then at the 12th cup, Zoro also pretended to be unable to hold on and collapsed. Nami was left alone to kill everyone. It seems that Nami still wants to get the 100,000 Baileys even for acting. Finally, when Nami defeated the last nun-looking woman, she won the game. At the same time, she couldn't hold on and fell on the table. Seeing everyone collapsed, the atmosphere in the tavern slowly began to quiet down. Then they walked out one after another. The moment they went out, Xia Chen and the other three opened their eyes at the same time. Zoro looked at the three of them, then at the three people lying on the ground over there, and couldn't help but sneer. TCH 3 idiots. Hearing this, Xia Chen and Nami both nodded in agreement. 3 idiots indeed. What do you think they want to do? Nami asked. You will know this kind of thing if you go out and see it. Xia Chen said with a smile. Okay. Then let's divide our forces into 2 groups. You go and see what's going on outside, and I'll go look for the treasure here. After saying that, Nami walked towards the surrounding rooms. Xia Chen looked at Zoro and said, Go and see the situation, and I'll prepare a gift for them. A gift? What do you mean? Zoro was a little confused. You'll find out later. At the same time, there were 2 people standing together outside the tavern. The nun slowly took off her black robe, revealing her bronzed and strong muscles. He asked the mayor, We don't have enough food, so why do we have to hold a banquet for them? The mayor slowly took out a reward notice from his sleeve, and it was clearly Luffy's face painted on it. The head of this guy wearing a straw hat is worth 25 million. If we catch him alive, the profit can be increased by 30%, which is enough for us to live for a while. Is he worth 25 million? The nun, Miss, said in shock on Sunday. She really didn't expect that the guy who looked thin, frail, and harmless would have a bounty of 25 million. But, I always have a bad feeling, the mayor, Mr. 8, said worriedly. The first thing is that one of them looks very similar to someone with a ridiculously high bounty. As he spoke, Mr. 8 took out a reward order from his pocket again. Yes, this time it was Xia Chen's reward order. Look for yourself, do you find anything? Miss Sunday stared at him for a while and then said, You mean the most handsome one among those people? Yes. Apart from their different costumes, their faces are exactly the same. So I'm a little worried. Miss Sunday also nodded thoughtfully. Indeed, it is a bit unreasonable that 2 people with such handsome faces should have this. Mr. 8, your analysis criteria are really unique. Then Mr. 8 said, but the possibility that he is this person is very small. This is a big pirate with a bounty of 300 million. How could it be that we can meet him casually? Another problem is that there is no news from Mr. 9 and Miss. We don't know if they have encountered any trouble. Mr. 8 said this calmly on the surface, but he was very worried in his heart. After all, he knew Miss Wednesday's true identity. She is their hope to save the Alabasta Kingdom. Forget it, let's not talk about this for now. Let's deal with the pirates inside first. Maybe you don't have this chance. A faint voice came from the top of the building, causing their faces to darken instantly, and they unconsciously looked up above their heads. Zoro was sitting on the roof at this time. He pulled out a knife and pointed it at Mr. 8 and a group of people. Aren't you drunk? Mr. 8 was horrified. Which idiot would be completely at ease coming to a town that welcomes pirates? Don't tell me, there are indeed such idiots, such as the 3 remaining on our ship. Another voice came from behind them, attracting their attention. At this time, Xia Chen moved a stool from nowhere and sat in the back, drinking coffee slowly. In front of him were 2 tied people, Mr. 9 and Miss Wednesday. Not only were their hands and feet tied, their mouths were also gagged with cloth. I could only signal to Mr. 8 and the others with my crazy eyes, but unfortunately, he couldn't understand. A little ahead of them, there was a circular scratch on the ground that enveloped the 3 of them. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel so you are notified of future uploads. You can find the next parts in the playlist visible on the screen or on my channel. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.